Hi everybody, and welcome to iLaserBeam's EX Episode 8, Act 3. I am Breakman EXE.
And I am Flashman EXE.
We decided to finally finish off our roundtable Sonic discussion. Well, technically, I'm pretty sure we are going to have another bit after this, but as far as mainstream Sonic discussion goes, I think this pretty much covers everything, doesn't it?
I would say that, yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that we skipped, like, we skipped a good majority of the spin-off games, and even some that could reasonably be considered canon. I really don't feel like I got to go into nearly as much depth with Fleetway as I wanted to, but that's really just more being pressed for time than anything else.
Right, we've been trying to keep these a little shorter than we used to.
Right, and, yeah, we're trying not to go, like, you know, Act 5 in length. And basically, yeah, like, you know, we haven't gone to insane levels covering everything. We haven't covered stuff like you know, the Sonic 2 beta, Sonic Crackers, the various, we haven't really talked a lot about the community. But I think just as far as Sonic itself is represented, we've done a pretty fair bang-up job of hitting the games and the comic books and now the animations, I suppose.
Yep, that is most certainly tonight's topic of discussion, is the animation aspect of Sonic the Hedgehog, whether it be here, locally, in North America, or overseas, you know, from the Land of the Rising Sun. And we definitely, we do reserve the right to come back and visit any aspect of Sonic at a later time if we so, if the mood so fancies us. So this might not be the end, but for now, we're bringing things to a bit of a close here.
I've always been a huge Sonic fan, and it's what got me into Mega Man, so I always have held Sonic in a special place in my heart, so to speak, on this higher pedestal than all of video gaming. And I just can't help it when it's a series that I have this much devotion for and this much dedication to. Yeah, we're gonna talk about it. So we'll probably hit, as new Sonic games come out, we'll probably hit them. We might even do like a follow-up sometime and talk about the various, discoveries like Sonic 2 Beta, as I mentioned, and other such things, and we glossed over that in the games briefly, like about how Sonic 3 and Sonic & Knuckles were supposed to be the same game initially. Yeah. But anyway, we will be coming back to Sonic, and so expect to hear more on this subject in the future. iLaserBeams, while Mega Man is our focus, and we've never really done a big public to-do statement about this, while Mega Man is our our binding that holds our site together. iLaserBeams, first and foremost, is about pretty much whatever we want to talk about. So
I mean, I think by this point you would probably have figured that out by now.
Yeah, but on the off chance that you're new here or whatever, then that's how ELB rolls. So.
Yeah, I mean, Mega Man is basically our face, but
it's the cornerstone that holds our building together, but the bricks are made out of different stuff. All of that aside, let's kick off Act 3 of Episode 8, Sonic Animations, with the first in the series, Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Wow, here we go.
Should we just, insert Tomorrow Isle here and be done with it? Or should we actually give this credible discussion?
If by credible you mean all of about, 3 minutes, sure.
I can just read the Wikipedia article if you think that'll go faster.
Now, we may as well give it some form of dignity. I mean, AOSTH Robotnik is awesome enough to, actually deserve some form of discussion. Well, he's certainly the most entertaining.
He is, really. If the other Robotniks are threatening, this Robotnik is... He stands head and shoulders above them in terms of just sheer entertainment factor.
This is the Bill Cosby of Sonic.
This really is. Alright, let's get on to discussing. Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog is, by technical rights, the first of the animated series, and...
It really shows.
Yeah, it really does show. AOSTH was done by Deke, and it is very much a American Sonic representation. Prior to this coming out, Sonic really didn't have anything resembling a voice per se, because, I mean, the original Sonic game came out in 1991.
Yeah.
And as far as this cartoon, this came out in 1993, so I would like to say that it even predates Sonic the Hedgehog 3 by... Yes, it does. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 came out in 1994, and this came out in 93. So that goes to show you how early on this is in the Sonic the Hedgehog series, per se. And as far as the comics go, the Sonic comics by Archie started in February of 1993, so they do predate AOSTH by several months. But Sonic hadn't really been seen on the big screen as a character. He hadn't really been established.
And I would even dare say that, you know, since Art Mahoney did work on both the Archie comic and on you know, like Sadam and whatnot, I wouldn't be surprised if the establishment of Sonic's personality, you know, in as far as that goes, I wouldn't be surprised if that was going on like side by side, like the comics and the cartoons, you know.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, the same dev team worked on Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog and Sadam. So,
yeah.
And they basically said when they were doing it that they had basically the serious one and then the more lighthearted syndicated series.
Yeah.
So Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog really shows in terms of its earliness. Its resemblance to the video games is practically non-existent.
It resembles the video games whenever it's convenient, pretty much.
Yeah.
I think.
Whenever they need a MacGuffin or otherwise plot device to draw from the video games, then it'll throw one in.
That's so sad too, because like those MacGuffins
really
became
is
so central to the stories of both the games and the later cartoons.
Right, and it's like there's a couple of episodes of Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog where concepts like the Chaos Emeralds are used, but nowhere near in the capacity that they are in the video games. And
yeah, I think they only go through about 4 of them, don't they?
Yeah, they go through 4, and each one has like a different power, and Robotnik travels through time to collect them all. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I remember Sonic like going and visiting one of his ancestors in like ancient Egypt or something.
I've never seen all 4 of those episodes, so
lucky
and
you.
I've seen practically all of AOSTH, just because that's a terrible arc even by AOSTH's standards. It's a terrible arc.
Yeah.
But Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, which is called AOSTH for short, because let's face it, the whole thing's a mouthful. AOSTH is basically this slapstick kind of Ren and Stimpy sort of style cartoon.
Yeah, it did sort of have that like over pasteled look to it, didn't it?
Yeah, the in terms of visual presentation, the backgrounds are like largely splatter paint on various weird textures, and the world is very inconsistent.
Yeah,
this is like really the big establishing factor. Like, I think the comics developed the concept of Mobius, but this is really where Mobius first took off in terms of a world that Sonic lives in. And as far as presentation, it's very pastel, it's very cartoony, it's very slapstick.
Well, yeah. It's totally just like a Saturday morning kids show.
It really is. A lot of, standard issue Sonic fooling the dumb villains with Groucho Marx level disguises. I mean, it's not...
Oh, God, I forgot that he did that. You're right.
Oh, he does that practically every episode. It's usually some kind of... and you'll see somebody... And you have to understand, this is the series that really... ironically enough, this is probably the series that really establishes Robotnik as a character.
Oh, man.
AOSTH's interpretation of the Sonic characters is hilarious.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and touch on that real quick. because this came out in 1993, and because it predates Sonic 3 and it predates a good portion of the Sonic series, they pretty much only had Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 to really work with as far as a character draw goes. In fact, they didn't even have Sonic CD to work with, because Sonic CD came out a couple of weeks after AOSTH started airing, and presumably, AOSTH was in planning several months before Sonic CD, so...
I think maybe by the time that Sonic CD had been out for a while, I honestly want to say that's probably around the same time that we ended up seeing characters like Pseudo Sonic specifically, because of the obvious influence, and the original Metal Sonic is way too evil to have gone in AOSTH.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. He would have been frightening by AOSTH's standards. So basically, the character draw you have in AOSTH is largely the protagonists Sonic and Tails.
Yep.
Because they were probably just coming down off of the Sonic 2 high, and it's pretty much Sonic and Tails versus Dr. Robotnik.
But then they would have, like, the random Freak of the Week characters show up, too.
Yeah, you would occasionally see, on both sides, like, Von Schlemmer was one of the, protagonist characters, this, nutty, good-hearted, mad scientist kind of guy. And he frequently seems to end up in the cooler. I'm not really sure what's up with that. As far as other characters go, there were a huge draw of Freak of the Week characters on the good side and the bad side. But pretty much it was Robotnik with some kind of Megatron level scheme. I mean, seriously, his Robotnik schemes in AOSTH are pants on backwards retarded, really. He pulls all kinds of crazy crap, because it's a Saturday morning cartoon.
Exactly.
And he's assisted by Scratch and Grounder, and occasionally Coconuts. He's not in nearly as many episodes as Scratch and Grounder. And
seriously, what a random handful of badniks, too.
Yeah, they just seem to pick like random ones from Sonic 2 specifically. So you have Scratch, and you have Grounder from Sonic 2, and you have Coconuts from Sonic 2, and they're largely altered from their game appearances. Like, you can basically make out that it's the same character, but they have that sort of same level of design intelligence that, like, the villains from Captain N have, such as, say, King Hippo and the Eggplant Wizard and Mother Brain. You can basically tell that's the character they're supposed to be, but it's a real stretch.
Yeah, honestly, it really is.
It is. And so basically, AOSTH revolves around Robotnik coming up with some kind of wacky scheme, like a bouncing raccoon cannon, and
or god, what was my terminology for it? I don't remember.
I know. I think mine was a bouncing raccoon cannon, and yours was a racking bouncing cannon.
Yeah, that's accurate.
You can say bouncing raccoon cannon in the Robotnik voice. I'll wait.
Bouncing raccoon cannon.
You wretched rapscallion. But
he is so fun.
He is. Robotnik is a delight in this show. I will watch AOSTH for Robotnik because he's so entertaining. And the character designers that came up with this specific incarnation of him, because we had never seen a Robotnik like this in the games. I mean, the Robotnik in the Sonic games is arguably much different than this specific interpretation of the character.
Oh, absolutely. God, it was so hard to zero in on the personality of that sort of character, because the only thing you ever see of him is, oh, I'm flying into my contraption. Oh, look at this, I got a wrecking ball. You're screwed now, Sonic.
I'm pulling bricks out of the ground with a spike. It's awesome. Now I'm chasing you through a labyrinth. Oh wait, I'm running away. Bye. Yeah, that Robotnik is he's just a stock villain. I mean, he's about as
Yeah, there's nothing to go off of there.
No, just that you understand he's a crazy scientist that wants to put every living being in the world inside a mechanical robot that takes it probably entirely way too much time for him to do.
Yeah.
But as far as this Robotnik goes, he's I believe Milton Knight is his character designer, and he wrote on one of Robotnik's character sheets that Robotnik is not he's not a straight villain. You don't play him that way. He's an object of ridicule, and that's honestly what's so great about him is he's just so goofy and lovable for being so bad at what he does that
yeah, I'll give him that.
He is the definition of so bad he's good.
Yeah.
And he very entertaining character to watch. And then you have Sonic, who's this is the first of 3 shows in which Sonic is voiced by Jaleel White,
otherwise known as Stephen Urkel.
Yes, and I can't really see that as Sonic's voice. Like, yeah, it's there. I'll give him that, but
like you can definitely hear similarities, but like Sonic's obviously like a lot less nasal and as opposed to the other character that Jaleel White was playing on a regular basis in the 90s.
Right, exactly. And it's interesting hearing and putting this face with Sonic. Sonic is largely the too cool to fool kind of protagonist in this show. He's it really seems like they took a lot of visual cues and away from Warner Brother cartoons, with Sonic as the Roadrunner and Robotnik largely as Wile E. Coyote.
Yeah, I can kind of see that parallel.
There are a lot of your standard issue gags, like, oh, it's a chili dog sitting on a plate in the middle of nowhere. Sonic will surely fall for this. And, you see
Whoa,
whoa,
hold on a second. There's something fishy about this.
Why would somebody put a chili dog right in the middle of the road with a huge mallet and a cannon marked bouncing raccoons right here in front of me? What speed, Geet?
And then you have Coconuts running out of a bush screaming. It's largely stupid, but it's
yeah.
It's an entertaining stupid, and the kind of show that, as Sonic fans go, I actually understand that this is one of those series that when it first came out, Sonic fans despised it, and now that we've gone through, through time basically to the present, Sonic fans actually look back on this with fond memories. I know I do. As a kid, I loved this show, even as terrible as it was.
Oh, this show is still terrible. But now we can look at it, and I think we've gotten to the point where we can look back on it and not take it as seriously as we did at the time.
I think so, honestly, because at the time we were taking this seriously and going, wow, this is so not accurate for Sonic.
Because honestly, at the time, we had both the games and, since I dare say that by the time that we actually knew that this existed, SatAM was going on alongside of it. So we had both the games and SatAM to look at and say, that's what Sonic should be.
Yeah, and this is basically, it's slapstick and it's goofy, but
yeah.
It's almost like watching a parody. You can't take it seriously, and if you can just accept that and just utter the Mystery Science Theater mantra of "it's a show," I'm going to sit back and take it at face value.
Yeah.
Then you can enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah.
The other thing that I wanted to mention really, really briefly about AOSTH before we move on is this is this is one of those series that, ironically enough, seem to have a lot of like retroactive inspirations in the Sonic franchise.
I can't fathom what you could possibly pull out of the hat to support that.
Right. Well, let me explain. In Fleetway took its inspiration design for Robotnik initially from the games, that Robotnik character.
Oh, yeah.
That's all Fleetway had to go off of, and you have to keep in mind, Fleetway started really early on in the Sonic series.
Yeah.
And then, when this design came out for Robotnik, they saw it, and they said, okay, well, they, at that point, maybe they assumed that Robotnik's character design was going to permanently change to AOSTH Robotnik, so they took him and ran with it. And they actually managed to take AOSTH's Robotnik's design, his visual look, and they really meaned him up and made him a lot more like really a lot more like Sad-Am Robotnik in terms of personality.
Yeah.
So you basically have this really menacing, scary AOSTH Robotnik, and it actually turned out really cool, which is sort of a rare thing to see something taken from practically, like I said, like a parody, and actually turned into something that turned out really, really well. And other interesting things that AOSTH caused in the Sonic realm, obviously Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine takes its visual cues directly from this cartoon. And you can even see hints of it in Sonic Spinball, like I mentioned. So it's there, and it wasn't, too big on impact, but it is there, and you still can see traces of it in early Sonic, which is actually, I think that's a really interesting achievement for a show that was, by most standards, fairly lackluster.
That's perfectly accurate. I can kind of see that, but honestly, I'm glad that it only had that amount of influence, because, well, it's AOSTH.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what it is, and that's what we love and hate it for.
I'd like to personally see to it that Sonic has fun like the big cupcake. Yes, in honor of my cupcake, Hedgehog, I offer you something to eat. Something to eat. I offer you cheese. Something to eat. Come in. What a pleasant surprise. Come in, my little friend. Come in. I offer you tea. How thoughtful of me. Offer you tea.
So then about, a couple weeks later, right?
Right.
Yeah, that was the point where Sonic the Hedgehog, the other Deke-released Sonic cartoon, came out, and this was relegated to the... I want to say Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog was relegated to the, like the weekday time slot, whereas Sonic the Hedgehog was assigned to a Saturday morning time slot on ABC, which is largely where we get its more accepted name, Sad-Am, from.
Right, and Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog was obviously geared towards syndication with 65 or so episodes, and, Sonic the Hedgehog, Sad-Am, was obviously targeted to be more of a series with an ongoing plot and an ongoing resolution, basically, as opposed to, let's go up and bust Robotnik's chops in his little castle on the, little mountain there. This is a arguably much deeper and complex series.
And see, on that specific note, I'd like to note that where AOSTH was, as we've established, it was largely slapstick and nothing really cementing and important ever happened there. But and so you could pretty much just jump in wherever and jump out whenever, and you wouldn't be missing anything. Sad-Am, in some cases, was like that as well. Like, they would definitely have Adventure of the Week sort of episodes. But on the large, Sad-Am definitely had an ongoing story that if you really couldn't just jump in and out like you could with AOSTH, because you would certainly miss something.
No, AOSTH was designed with basically random episodes in mind, and it didn't matter where you started watching it. You could quickly pick up on the fact that Sonic's the good guy and Robotnik's the bad guy, and that's really about all you need to know when watching AOSTH.
It was very user-friendly towards kids with ADD.
Yeah, exactly, and people who just had no knowledge of Sonic in general or any real interest in the series.
Right, yeah.
It was basically it was a go-to cartoon, and this was less of a cartoon and more of an animated series, and it really feels like it. It's still not as an in-depth as, say, most anime are, but
yeah,
I mean, because you have to keep in mind it's a Western cartoon, and this is really before even anime started getting to the point where it was as mainstream, as it is now.
Yeah, it was still very underground back in the early 90s.
Right, and so this is basically a. As far as cartoons go, it was surprisingly dark and surprisingly in depth. For the time, you could very much say it was an advancement. The characters are played a lot more serious. Sonic, ironically enough, in some cases, almost feels like a transplant directly from AOSTH into this.
Yeah, and I honestly think that has just mostly largely to do with the fact that
It's the same voice actor.
well,
and,
A, the same voice actor, definitely, and B, it's the same animation company.
Right, yeah, and Deke obviously was going, you know...
I wouldn't be surprised if they would, like,
visual.
trade script writers back and forth, you know?
Yeah, and so occasionally, you know, it was basically... Sonic actually is the only character who really feels out of character in the series, because he doesn't take anything seriously, and, you know...
Sometimes he does, though.
He does. I'm speaking in generalities here, rather
Okay,
than
yeah.
the rule rather than the exception. You know, he's basically a you know, the same generic wisecracking action hero sort of character that he is in AOSTH, only on a little more mature and personal level. And there are times when Sonic shows exceptional levels of you know, of character depth, and you really see it in him. But for the most part, Sonic is he seems to shoulder the mantle of comedic relief in the Freedom Fighter character group, just if anything to
Just to make sure that morale doesn't go down the tubes, because the
Exactly.
the SATAM version of Mobius is largely a very, very depressing place.
It is. It's a crap sack world. I mean, to the extreme.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a bit. Just how
Yeah.
insanely different this world is compared to like AOSTH.
Yeah, specifically, we definitely want to touch on Robotnik here, because
Oh, yeah.
I dare say this is, if AOSTH's Robotnik is the most entertaining one, then this is probably the most genuinely
Sinister
well done
and evil.
Robotnik. He's evil, and he's an actual... this Robotnik is a straight villain. And
Yeah, oh man.
a very well done one. So the first thing to notice about SATAM is unlike the first series, where it's all cartoony and not really well defined or consistent in terms of its extra characters and whatnot. SATAM has, you can tell they were obviously going in the direction of establishing a world, establishing a continuity, and sticking to it over the series. It's very consistent, and it's very well done. It's Mobius has basically been pretty much, by the time of SATAM, it's pretty much been overrun by Robotnik officially.
Yeah. SATAM mostly takes place in the days after Robotnik's rise to seize power over all of the planet.
As far as the world goes, the majority of it takes place in majority of the action takes place in two locations, Knothole Village and Robotropolis, which is the city formerly known as Mobitropolis, the capital of Mobius.
Yeah.
And Robotnik basically took over the largest city on the planet and made it his base of operations.
For those of you that have seen Star Wars, basically think of it as Imperial City on Coruscant.
Yeah, it's this this gigantic sprawling metropolis that was originally, you know, the advancements and wonders of the future and modern conveniences, and it's just this wonderful place to live, you know, with city palaces and, you know, the whole bit. It was like this, you know, this futuristic castle town.
Yeah, essentially.
And now it's basically this just disgusting slum, you know, sludge pit, robotic hell where all of all of these factories and machines have polluted it.
It's basically a glorified robot factory city now. And it's completely labyrinthine. I mean, it's not designed for people to be able to roam the streets and get from point A to point B. It's totally... It's cold. It's metallic. There's no logical reason that living people should be walking the streets, so it's not designed for that at all. It's just...
unsafe, hazardous, polluted, disgusting... It's like the mirror opposite bad future of what
seriously
Mobitropolis was. I mean, you could almost take a design cue from Sonic CD and say, this is the good future and this is the bad future. And it's there, it's visible.
It's interesting that you make that connection considering one of the later episodes in SATAM.
Yeah, really. And And Robotnik sits as its king and emperor, divine practically. I mean, nobody can unthrone this guy.
But of course, that's where Knothole Village and its group of freedom fighters comes into play.
Yes, the freedom fighters are. You would think that they're led by Sonic, but they're really not. Sonic almost serves as like a just another one of the guys in this team, practically. I mean, he's still the star of the show, and he's still the main character, and it shows.
If he had to be given some sort of rank in this ragtag army, he would probably have to be, I guess, some sort of captain or something. He doesn't really have a commanding role per se, but there are people above him, but he is also kind of looked up to as the guy that you can rely on to get something done.
If this is Mission Impossible, Sonic is Ethan Hunt. He's the point man. And not the leader of the team, but the guy that has the most experience and the one that's probably the most skilled at what he does specifically.
Yeah.
And he's definitely got that key player role. Like, as far as operations go, the team wouldn't function without Sonic, but he's not necessarily the head of it. And he's the guy that definitely, pulls everybody else out of the muck and mire whenever they seem to flop in conveniently.
Yeah, seriously. I don't know. Again, the random dork characters of the week, along with Antoine, who just can't do anything right. Seriously, why did they let that guy go out on the battlefield?
No, Antoine is worthless. Let's hit on the characters just real quick while we're here, since that seems to be a good place to start.
Okay. The cast is largely the same as the Archie Sonic comics.
At least the original Archie Sonic comics before, Ragtag Cast Ahoy. Basically, you have Sonic and you have Tails, and Tails in this show is much more of a backseat role than he is. Yeah,
he doesn't even get that much actual. He doesn't even show up in a whole mess of episodes.
No, Tails is basically there for for the cute, fluffy, little character that you need, but he doesn't really serve a specific role for anything other than just being Sonic's sidekick. And
basically,
and it's interesting seeing Tails in this role and capacity, because in more recent Sonic adventures, you look at Tails and see him as the reliable one. The brains of the outfit, the fix-it guy, the go-to character.
Yeah, and really.
And Sad Am, Tails is basically there for no other purpose other than just having somebody for everyone else to look down on while he looks up at them, because that's the role Tails serves. He's literally, in this series, he's literally the kid.
Yeah, really in the later, specifically in the later games, he really just sort of picked up Rotor's mantle that was never actually, filled in the games side of the Sonic world.
They just basically decided that Sonic needed somebody that could match wits with Robotnik on a mental level, and Tails is the boy genius with a high IQ that just seems to kind of fill that role. But here in Sad Am, he's basically just a little sidekick for Sonic, and really doesn't serve any other function.
Yeah.
As for the other members of the team, you have Rotor, the fix-it guy, repair dude sort of character, and he doesn't really go into battle much either. He seems to stay back in Knothole most of the time and make sure that stuff stays running.
Yeah, he's definitely the mechanic and inventor of the team, but that is the kind of guy that you don't send out onto the battlefield, because if you do, and something happens, what's gonna who are you going to have make all of your little fancy contraptions?
Yeah, Rotor is the engineer and proud of it. And then you have Sally, who's probably the leader of the team, truthfully.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Definitely the most competent of the freedom fighters, and the one that, if Sonic is the morale of the team, then Sally is the team mom that makes sure everybody stays, in check, and she holds the team together on a practical level, while Sonic holds the team together more for morale and feelings. And Sally's the leader. That's just it. Sally is the leader, and it makes sense because Sally's involvement with the war is on a very personal level.
Yeah, that's accurate to say.
Yeah, really. And rounding off the team are pretty much Antoine, who is he's the comedic foil for Sonic.
God.
And Antoine is so largely useless in SatAM. He's there strictly to have the, like every other cartoon show seemed to need at the time, he's the kind of character that stands back and goes, I'm not sure about this plan.
This is the Simon Belmont of SatAM, essentially.
He really is, yeah. He's both cowardly and exceptionally vain. And you later find out that Antoine's family has, been long-standing as the Royal Guard, but Antoine just never really seemed like he got the proper training that he needed, so...
Seriously.
I think
he ended up as more of a, unintentionally as more of a bureaucrat than as an actual, Royal Guard.
Yeah, Antoine is there just for the fact that basically he's got the uniform and that's about his qualifications.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I look like the Royal Guard, but no, I'm very much not that character.
He's
Antoine
a glorified
is definitely
doorman.
In a good future Mobotropolis setting, Antoine would have easily been tasked with a desk job, and probably been, like you said, like a bureaucrat, a spokesperson per se, rather than ever seeing, a battle on any kind of level at all, because he's just not... Antoine is simply not there. He's not that kind of character.
Yeah.
And lastly, we have Bunny Rabbit, who we remember very, very well from the comics. She's there because the team kind of seemed to need both a muscle character and another girl. So she sort of shoulders both roles. But...
Yeah. It's honestly a really interesting mix, too. It works out pretty well.
It really does. Yeah, Bunny is actually one of the few SatAM exclusive, Archie-exclusive characters that I can point to and still legitimately feel like she's a Sonic character. Because I like her, and... she's not really in depth. I mean, you just know that she's this, half robotic rabbit girl with a southern accent, and that's about it. I mean,
yeah,
she's exactly what she says on the tin, and so you look at her and you go, oh, well, that makes sense. Okay, I can run with that.
And you know what? Now that I think about it, I honestly think that Mina Mongoose's invention had a lot to do with Bunny's popularity as a character. And for some reason, the need to involve Bunny in some sort of love triangle, but they couldn't do that to Bunny's character.
No, so they basically threw Mina in there as basically, well, when all else fails, add a Cheryl Blossom. And that's about really the role that she serves. And I have an awesome picture on my computer of, and I should probably post this along with the column, I have an awesome picture of Sally kicking Mina in the mouth.
Oh, yeah, you sent that to me before. That is one of my favorites.
That's like our corporate logo. But as it goes, as SatAM goes, you have basically this, ragtag team of fighters who, specialize in... taking Robotnik down, but they never really do seem to succeed at that on any level. It's almost kind of like Gilligan's Island syndrome in a way.
Kinda.
Except with an ongoing plot, and...
I think it's largely because, in order to get anything done, they kind of have to journey into, since they basically are next door to Ground Zero, Robotropolis, pretty much any attempt at overthrowing Robotnik has to take place on his turf. So they largely engage in a lot of, sort of
psychological warfare and that sort of thing, and espionage rather than...
Exactly, like espionage, guerrilla warfare sort of stuff, just really trying to strike as hard as you can without leaving yourself open to any sort of retaliation, because whatever you get in return is going to be so much worse than what you managed to deal out.
One of the interesting things about this specific Robotnik, getting to him as a character, is every Robotnik seems to have a massive, list of character flaws, and this one is not an exception. This Robotnik, it's kind of interesting because when you consider the proximity, like Break said, of Knothole Village to Robotropolis, and seriously, it's like probably a couple hours walk away. I mean, it's not.
I would say so. It's definitely pretty deep. Like when you're on the edge of the Great Forest, you can see it's probably about maybe another half hour walk to the outskirts of Robotropolis.
Yeah.
But to get to Knothole proper, it's probably a good at least another hour and a half.
All in all, I wouldn't say it's a dozen miles away from Robotropolis, though. It's just the way you have to get to it.
Yeah.
And, basically, like, where Knothole is in proximity to Robotropolis, it really amazes me how Robotnik, for how advanced this Robotnik is as a character, it just baffles my mind that he is completely unable to locate Knothole Village and destroy really the only resistance that stands against him. So I think it also kind of gives Robotnik an interesting facet to his personality, in that he maybe just can't be bothered to do it. I mean, like, he doesn't see them as a threat at all, and just writes them off, which is kind of interesting because they foil his plans all the time. As the other Robotnik,
at the same time, though, I think them foiling his plans is just more of a temporary setback for him. I mean, he has all the resources in the world at his disposal. He's probably like, they managed to slip up. They managed to slip me up this time. Well, it's okay. I can outsource this, the production of this robot to, my one of my factories on the other side of the world, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I get that, it's definitely a crippling victory, but I also get that he's going to be at the exact same point that he was before the slip up, in a matter of weeks.
Yeah, with the other Robotnik, it's pretty much like we said: bouncing raccoon cannons ahoy. Goofy plots, stop it, problem solved. Next week, different goofy plots, stop it, problem solved. Robotnik never gets anywhere. This Robotnik is more, he's much more of a social networker, as the Robotnik family of characters seems to go. He's the kind that set up and established this coup d'etat over Mobitropolis, and then sent his agents basically into other parts of the world to do largely the same once he had a big base of operations going. And this is definitely a Robotnik whose game plan is divide and conquer. And if he can do that, he realizes he wins. And so, as far as the freedom fighters go, basically the large amount of the SAT-AM plots are, Robotnik has some kind of really terrible, bomb he's constructing, or some kind of poison he's developed or something,
or he's building like a new factory that is going to dump a ton of toxic waste into this,
the only water supply for like 50 miles, or gonna kill a village or something. So it's constantly about the freedom fighters having to stop some Robotnik plan that is actually more detrimental to their operations. And they never really seem to make any headway, other than just basically plugging. They kind of just rather than
exactly, yeah.
And that's pretty much their method of operation is hit Robotnik and slow him down, but they can't stop him, and they know it. And so the series has this real sense of urgency, and that you always feel like it's only a matter of time until something really bad happens. And
it's seriously like something extreme has to happen in order for the freedom fighters to actually get that foothold they're looking for.
Right. And along the way, they meet up with other resistance groups, Airy the Ram and the Wolf Pack. They seem to meet up with various other characters along the way that help them out. But as it goes, though, it's pretty much the Knothole freedom fighters with various other small resistances around Mobius that, in their own areas, they've also been struck by Robotnik and Robotnik's men, so to speak. This SAT-AM also really developed the concept of, although you could technically say the comic books established this, I'd say this is the series that really took off with it. This version of Sonic established the roboticization concept.
Yes.
As this sadistic torture device that was initially designed by Sonic's uncle Charles the Hedgehog, or Uncle Chuck. The roboticizer was this machine that was designed to basically, through some kind of magic ray gun power thing that's never really explained, it can turn flesh and blood into metal and circuitry at the bone structure up. I mean, it's very thorough in what it does.
I think the original design was supposed to be able to
Enhance,
elongate someone's
lifespans,
lifespan.
like with pacemakers and basically that sort of thing. It was designed for medical purposes, not as a weapon.
But unfortunately, the final product ended up robbing its victim. Well, it wasn't intended to be a victim, but it ended up robbing its victim of any and all free will.
Yeah,
and basically turning them
into basically a robot zombie. And
exactly.
So when Charles decided that the project was entirely too unsafe, he abandoned it. And Robotnik found out about it and turned it into a bioweapon, basically.
I would like to note also that by that point in the series timeline, Dr. Ivo Robotnik was known as Warlord Julian Ivo, correct?
I believe that is correct, yes. Colloquially known as Warlord Julian, so...
Yeah.
Robotnik in this series, unlike the AOSTH, he's not assisted by, various bumbling, incompetent robot henchmen. Well, technically he is, but that's a matter of opinion. Robotnik is aided by his nephew, Snively, who sort of plays like an Igor, I guess, kind of character. But you can tell by looking at Snively. Snively's the kind that if he thought that he could overthrow Robotnik, Snively would side with the freedom fighters, but his partnership with Robotnik is largely a marriage of convenience, simply that he realizes Robotnik is pretty much this unstoppable behemoth that, Snively's not the kind that'll put his neck on the own line to save somebody else.
But that doesn't mean that he's not, looking out for an opportunity to rid himself of the sinking ship.
Absolutely. Snively is the kind of character that will knife Robotnik in the back at the earliest possible opportunity. It is also interesting to note that Snively is his last name is Kentobor, and not Robotnik, which obviously Kentobor Robotnik backwards, blah blah blah. But it's interesting. It's interesting to note that that is officially his name. And he's not very competent, but he really wants to overthrow Robotnik badly. But you could also even make the argument that Snively is more dangerous than Robotnik because he's a lot more reckless and foolhardy, whereas Robotnik is content to rule from his little iron citadel and not take unnecessary risks. Snively's the kind that, if given power, would probably blow up half the planet just because that's how Snively rolls.
Come to think of it, I think they actually do have a couple of episodes where, like, Robotnik has to, go somewhere to, do something, and he leaves Snively in charge of things in Robotropolis, and Snively just goes, like, absolutely power crazy.
Right.
He's like, I'm leaving you here to keep an eye on things, Snively.
Exactly.
Oh, thank you, sir. I'll be sure to keep things up and running while you're gone. Now that Fat Boy's out of the way...
Well, now you've got to do the nice trip one.
Good morning, Dr. Robotnik. Exciting trip? Shut up, Snively.
I love that line. It's hilarious. Like, you could probably make an hour and a half of nothing but shut ups and shut up, Snivelies from the various two animated Robotniks, just looped over and over again. This Robotnik is very scary in terms of just him as a character. He's a villain, and there is no question about it. He is not the good guy. And you can look at him, and he's not even a sympathetic villain. I mean, he's a complete monster kind of character. There's no feeling sorry for him. There's no ulterior motives. He's just a bastard and wants to lead, and that's how he operates. And so it's really interesting seeing, I think the thing that we wanted to note about the roboticizer is that he pretty much roboticized like over half the planet's population and made them his slaves.
Yeah.
So, and one of the really weird and kind of creepy and cool things about Saddam is a lot of times the robot enemies that Sonic will encounter, he can't harm because
they are
innocent people.
Yeah, they're just, unfortunately, they are prisoners that have been basically brainwashed and turned against, Sonic and his friends. And they make a point of, ensuring that you understand that these people are just, casualties of war.
As a spin attack and,
exactly.
let them burning inside out.
And, like, Uncle Chuck actually comes back into the story at different points and using... I don't really want to get into the the physical properties of the power rings because they're never really explained.
Right.
But temporarily, Sonic is able to restore Sir Charles's consciousness by exposing him to the energy signature of a power ring, and which is just kind of more cements the fact that this is some really serious stuff, and there could in the future potentially be a way to reverse the process and maybe cause a massive counter revolt against Robotnik. But for the most part, again, it's the whole
they can't get off the island thing. Like, basically,
yeah.
You understand that if the series had kept going, it probably... Oh, and that's another thing. It got canceled. Yay! On a cliffhanger, too, which is...
No, seriously.
It's honestly, like, I when I think of series that have been canceled, left dangling, this is right up there with Rockman Dash 2.
Yeah.
I mean, I can point to SatAM and say, this is an example of why people should not be allowed to produce a series. I mean, this is almost Firefly bad. You sit there and you look at it and you go, holy crap, they end it on this note. And on the off chance you're interested in seeing the show, I really don't want to spoil it for you how it ends, but just understand it ends on a terrible cliffhanger. Another thing that you would have noticed too, and I really want to mention this, even though it's not actually directly cartoon related. I really want to hit upon this. There was also going to be a video game for SatAM.
Oh yeah. Oh, I really wish that this had actually seen the light of day. Or at least if someone can find that demo, and rip it. Like,
seriously, we will give you so many battle chips.
Seriously.
But Peter Morawijk was a former programmer for STI, and he created a pretty well-known game called Comic Zone for the Sega Genesis. He was working on a prototype based on SatAM, and it was using this wildly different engine than the Sonic series games had gone. It was more of a
it was kind of like a Final Fight sort of thing.
Yeah, like stealth platformer kind of game. And he really, he really was doing a good job on this game, and Yuji Naka basically took one look at it and blackballed it, standard issue. Sega move, and they just said that it didn't feel fast enough. It didn't feel like what a Sonic game would feel like. And the idea was basically that Sonic would venture through levels of Robotropolis, fighting Robotnik's enemies, along the way getting support from the various SatAM characters to allow him to progress further into the game. And it had a really interesting premise, and really looked like it would have been a really good game. And unfortunately, we don't get it.
See, and the really crappy thing is that would probably be perfectly acceptable today. I mean, we had a Sonic RPG by BioWare, and that was apparently really well received, so...
Absolutely, and and you can't really blame Sonic Team for everything, because, I mean, especially after, basically, revelations of them being a glorified sweatshop have come to light.
Huh. But
it's just sad. I mean, it really is. It's just sad how it goes, and why all good things must come to, an abrupt and untimely end.
Yeah.
It is interesting to note that Ben Hurst was one of the screenwriters for Sonic the Hedgehog SatAM, and he is keen on resuming production of the series, even though it's been canceled for over 15 years. He doesn't want to reveal too much of the plot, and but he's intent. He wants to someday, pick this project back up, and I gotta hand it to him. To have faith after this long is actually really cool of him, because
I know, really,
if the creators can have that much faith in the series, who knows? Maybe we'll see SatAM continued in some capacity in the future. I mean, it's unlikely, but so many stranger things have happened.
Yeah, and since and we're gonna get into this later, but since Sonic X was basically done until America threw more money at the Japanese animation company to continue it, if that can happen, we might see a season 3 of SatAM sometime in the future, probably with a much higher budget too,
or even a reboot.
I would also be accepting of that, as long as they didn't
Bastardize Yeah.
bastardize it and base it off of the comics.
That wouldn't be cool.
No.
But it would be nice to see an American Sonic project again, because I know this sounds crazy since Sonic is largely a, Japanese production, and I am a huge fan of Japanese culture, so don't take this as any kind of, it's not going to be likely coming from me, of all people. I think that American Sonic has largely been more successful than Japanese takes on the series, and I don't know why that is, but...
And you even have to consider that the American version of Sonic as a character has been largely influential on the later versions of Sonic that we've seen come out of Japan.
Absolutely. I mean, when you look at the original, Sonic as a game character, he's pretty much this, strong, silent, platforming action hero kind of character. He had as much character depth as Mega Man did. And, now you look at him, and now he's basically this, this completely over-the-top, feels like a cartoon character, and I would still say that the American Sonic overall has been both more successful and has done more to endear himself to the hearts of Sonic fans, worldwide, than the recent Sonic Team endeavors with, the adventure reboots and restylings of the characters, and, just that's all that sort of thing. It's like, it's all well and good, and I like the adventure style. I mean, I'm open and receptive to all incarnations of Sonic, but I have to admit, I don't like the direction that it's going in. Like, I see it, and it just, it almost seems like it's trying to take too many cues from Mario with, Sonic Unleashed practically being, this, surreal and totally unsonic, if that makes any sense, incarnation of the series. It's just, yeah, it's all well and good, but it just doesn't feel like Sonic anymore.
Blue streak speeds by, Sonic the Hedgehog, too fast for the naked eye. Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic, he can really move. Sonic, he's got an attitude. Sonic, he's the fastest thing alive.
So, that having been said, speaking of things that don't feel like Sonic...
Perfect segue. Well done.
Wow, thank you. That was totally unintentional, and it just worked.
Yeah, run with it. I mean, no, seriously.
Yeah.
Let's just get this over with. I doubt we'll be dedicating any sort of really feasible length of discussion to this.
Yeah, this will probably be shorter than AOSTH was.
But here we go. Sonic Underground. All right, cue the transition music.
They're trying to find their mom, Sonic Underground.
I hate you so much.
I mean, seriously, it's really, yeah. Sonic Underground, wow. Where do we start with this train wreck?
Basically, I think the only reason that this came about is because DiC still probably had some sort of licensing rights to make a Sonic cartoon that they wanted to capitalize on before they lost the rights.
Yeah, and this came out...
But they obviously couldn't continue SATAM.
This is the most random-ass thing about this particular Sonic endeavor. This came out during Adventure Era Sonic. 1999.
Oh, yeah.
1999 to 2000 was when Sonic officially shed his classic skin and was reborn anew into the world as Sonic Adventure style, daddy
pipe cleaner arms
Sonic.
And legs and
yeah.
green eyes and
a buff
not mattering
chest.
now what happens and never giving up the fight.
Yeah, but Sonic Underground, it's bad. It's really bad. It's classic Sonic styled, kind of, which is weird. The Sonic character design is straight classic Sonic. Looks pretty much verbatim like he did in AOSTH and SATAM.
But that's really as far as it goes. I mean,
yeah.
For starters, the art budget for this show definitely went out the window.
No, I mean, there's no excuse. The animation in Sonic Underground is terrible. The camera which is not really a term I would normally associate with a cartoon.
Yeah.
It'll like abruptly shift and not like rotate. What am I trying to say? It'll like sweep the screen back and forth, and
and it's this really unnatural looking thing.
It's like this epileptic vision watching it.
Yeah.
And you sit there going, "Oh my god, I actually got a headache watching the show once." Because it's
like
weird.
Those transitions are so unnaturally smooth. Like you can totally tell that they were starting to use computers for that kind of stuff. But it just looked terrible. Like it was just you doing that for the sake of doing that. Like whereas before in like even AOSTH, I mean, if the landscape was scrolling past, they would draw the landscape scrolling past, as opposed to, oh, let's manually pan this entire scene past our imaginary camera inside our computer visions.
It uses a lot of panning, which is not acceptable for a cartoon. Another thing it is guilty of
looks
is
cheap.
Finger puppet animation, where the characters you'll just see their torsos and heads moving up and down, and that's supposed to simulate walking.
Yeah,
rather than
they won't animate their feet at all.
Yeah, rather than animating walking. Like this is actually kind of weird in that this is gonna sound so illogical. Sonic Underground is sort of like a really bad hybrid of AOSTH and SAT-AM, and that it's got the crap world from SAT-AM down to a fine science, but it's got the Mobians are very irregular and inconsistent thing from AOSTH. In AOSTH, I mean, you'd see people running around that looked like, that actually looked like Sonic characters, and then you'd see people running around that looked like sausages in pants, and you'd be like, what? I mean, the Mobians were not consistent. There was no, like, standard of character design. It was just basically like Ren and Stimpy extras is what they felt like. Just, okay, whatever we want to draw. You want to draw a guy with a toaster for a head and a business suit? Alright, he's Mobian. There was no consistency to the character designs. It was just whatever the hell they felt like putting on the screen at the time.
Yeah.
And Sonic Underground, unfortunately, suffers from that all over again. And you would think 6 years later they would have learned their lessons, but they didn't. And, so, specifically, let's just gloss over this one and hit the meat and potatoes of it real quick. The only two well, I guess you could technically count him as a third. I don't recall, and I might be wrong, I don't recall Tails appearing in Sonic Underground at all, anywhere.
I don't think so, no.
And, specifically, the characters that stick around in Sonic Underground that are actually canon to the Sonic series are Sonic and Robotnik, and surprisingly...
Yeah.
Knuckles.
Poor guy. His grand debut on the TV Sonic shows is in a crapper like Sonic Underground. Poor guy. Seriously.
Yeah, like, 5 to 6 years after he's relevant as a Sonic character, I mean, they decide to throw him in. And there's really no excuse for that, because, like, if SAT-AM had regressed, Knuckles would have been in there so hard. They would have thrust him in there.
Absolutely. I mean, SAT-AM had even introduced the concept of a floating island at some point.
So, the thing to note about Sonic Underground as a series is, well, for starters, the main characters are Sonic, and, oh man, I don't want to tell them. Do you want to do this?
I got it.
Okay.
The main characters of Sonic Underground are Sonic and a pair of recolors that are related to him.
Oh, really? Wow.
Transition music goes here. No, seriously. God, it's so terrible. And all three of them are voiced by Jaleel White to boot, and it sounds really terrible. Okay, so you've got Sonic the Hedgehog. Okay, so we're used to this character by now. Then you have Manic the Hedgehog, which is like
his
Sonic's,
brother.
Sort of rough and tumble Ashura the Hedgehog sort of character brother. And then you have Sonic's sister, Amy Ronya. Sonia the Hedgehog. All three of them are voiced by Jaleel White, just in a different...
Yes, a female is voiced by Jaleel White. I want you to understand how horrifying this concept is. And
it's
sounds
terrifying.
Just as bad as it is.
It really, honestly does. I mean, poor guy. I mean, I can't even begin to think of the kind of stuff that went through... Jaleel White's head when he had to do this frickin' role. But, and to make matters worse, Sonic and his siblings are now, completely right Princess Sally Acorn out of the story. We've got Sonic and his siblings as the royal heirs to the throne.
Yeah, I know. Sonic is a prince, all right?
Yeah, of course. You can totally see that. I mean, his character just screams it.
Yeah, connection's
And
totally there.
they were abandoned at supposedly a young age by their mother, the Queen, who is now, missing at large.
And I mean, seriously, like, this is the thing that really irritates you about the show.
Yeah.
It also has Gilligan's Island syndrome, and that the basic motivation for Sonic and his siblings is just to find their mother. That's it. That's all they want. It's like this is like Trix Rabbit levels of cruelty. They run
Silly
around...
hedgehog. Parents are for not hedgehogs.
Yeah, they run around the entire show looking for their mom, and no joke, no freaking joke, you'll see her hair and legs and arms moving, behind a wall, and they'll be like, "Oh my god, that looks like her mom!" They'll go around the wall and she's not there, and you're like, why?
Oh, we missed her this time. Shucks.
Well, we'll be back next week for more wacky hijinks, and of course this is another Sonic series, I'm just gonna hit it, that got canceled, so naturally...
But this one was rightfully canceled.
This was rightfully canceled because it sucks, but there's no level of finality with it at all.
But it's not like we cared, so that's really not that big of a deal. But you know what? The Jonas Brothers, Miley Cyrus-esque retarded rock anthems that were composed for each individual episode didn't help matters at all.
It's also kind of stupid to note that Sonic has his. Oh yeah, that's right. Have we even hit the musical thing?
No.
Yeah.
Only
okay.
briefly.
Yeah. Let's touch on this.
It's magical and delicious, but not.
It's definitely Okay. So basically, the way that this works is the Sonic Underground has a gimmick, and this is a gimmick, and there's no other way to define it. The main characters, Sonic, Manic, and Sonia, yes, got it right, are they're all musicians, and I say musicians in the loosest sense of the word. I mean, I swear. They have these little necklaces that they carry around. They have some kind of magical properties or some crap like that. I don't know.
They're carrying around MacGuffin necklaces.
Yeah, they're rock MacGuffins. And basically, they carry these things around, and Sonic plays the guitar, Manic plays the drums, and Sonia gets the stereotypical keyboard.
Because that's all that women know how to play in rock bands, apparently.
Yeah, well, if it was good enough for Veronica. But anyway, it's kind of stupid, really, how the whole system works in this show. They play these rock instruments, and they go around performing as a gig that they do. They have a little tour van, and they go to basically various places on. I'm guessing this show takes place on Mobius. I think it does, right? Yeah, okay, Mobius. That's right. And they go around from places that Robotnik hasn't taken over. And they perform for money and that sort of thing. So they're basically like traveling musicians. And
but doesn't that musical performance aspect, doesn't that basically replace any form of combat within the show, whatever?
Actually, yes, I'm getting to that.
I'm sorry.
I should also mention that their singing voices, thankfully, are not done by Jaleel White. They do have singing voice actors and an actress, yes, one. And so it's kind of interesting, but not, that they would go to this level of gimmickry for Sonic, in that the characters travel around and they perform music, and there is occasional combat in the series, but basically whenever they need a big fight scene, which is usually halfway through an episode, it will be a fight scene set to a music video.
Yeah.
I say music video, I mean music and clips being played at the same time.
Yeah.
Basically, what they'll do for the music video is they will use stock footage. They will use
absolutely
reused footage. They'll use whatever they want, and it'll basically be Sonic and his siblings running around and doing stuff to music that's like Bill Nye the Science Guy level of quality. I mean, I'm sorry, it's just it's bad, and it's like really goofy songs that don't have any like seriously, like this is
It's basically they plugged in a Kids Bop album and
Yeah.
put Sonic footage over it.
Yeah, like seriously, here are some of the titles of the songs that play. Working Together in Harmony, We're All in This Together, The Children Light the Way, Let's Do It to It. I loved this one, this is horrible. Fastest Thing Alive, I don't think it's the same song.
No. I need to beat somebody now. They can't do that.
I know, right? Isn't that horrible? And this is my personal favorite. No One is an Island, and you can guess what character that was for.
Oh.
So they
Nothing
play a
but
lot,
sympathy for you, my dreadlocked friend.
and I mean, honestly, no joke, the musical quality for the Sonic Underground songs is terrible. And don't worry, we're going to let you hear it in this column, so you will rest assured you'll get to hear it. But I mean, it's basically
roll that
that.
clip.
It's like Break said, it's like Kids Bop album, generic, off the rack from any party supply store, and it's horrible, and it replaces like you said the combat, and it always takes place almost precisely in the middle of the episode. It's just, and every episode has one of these music videos. You can't get away from them.
Oh, I was able to get away from them.
Yeah,
I saw
well,
the pilot
yeah.
episode and dropped the show.
Yeah, it's just not watching the show. Basically, is your method of operation for handling Sonic Underground. It's the only
just
way
like
to
letting
be
Colonel
safe.
die instead of removing him from my party.
Yes, exactly. Let's destroy this green mystery data, Lan Hikari. But anyway, so Sonic Underground just as the plot goes, it kind of goes back to the AOSTH system, in that Robotnik, borrowed from Saddam, Robotnik has taken over Mobius. Borrowed from AOSTH, Robotnik is assisted by two completely idiotic, sniveling henchmen, Sleet and Dingo.
Shape-shifting wolves.
Yeah, shape-shifting wolf and some other creepy hyena guy. And I can't even remember which one is which, honestly. They
don't
left
care.
that little of an impact on me. There are a couple of other random characters. I believe Uncle Chuck makes an appearance in the series, and then there's the Oracle of Delphius, who's like this sage dude that helps them out on occasion and just basically tells them what to do. And then there's Queen Alina, who's the mother of their, obviously the mother of the main characters. We should also mention that she basically has to run around the series hiding from her children until the time is right to reveal herself, which never happens. It's just all in all, Sonic Underground doesn't make any sense. It doesn't have any consistency, and it's just it's just not that great of a series.
No, it's not. It's really not.
It's not. So.
Triplets born, the throne awaits. A seer warns of a deadly fate. Give up your children, separate. Bide your time, lie in wait. Sonic Underground, Sonic Underground. They made a vow their mother will be found.
So that brings us around to the next item on our list, which, I'm not really sure what to call this. I mean, the American name calls it Sonic the Hedgehog the Movie.
That is a huge misnomer, though, because that's not accurate at all.
That is a lie, yes. It's also been called, like, Sonic OVA, which is probably the most convenient name for it.
Honestly, yeah, because it comes in two halves anyway, and we're not going to use both of them.
So we're just going to call this Sonic the OVA, because there's just I think that's really just the most convenient name for it that we can come up with immediately.
Yeah, honestly, let's just keep it as simple as possible. Sonic
Right.
OVA.
Sonic OVA came out around 1996, so it technically predates Sonic Underground, and it comes after Saddam, but it had nothing to do with DiC as a production studio at all.
Yeah, this is from the Land of the Rising Sun, folks.
Yeah, this is officially the first Sonic anime, really. It was put out by a company called General Entertainment Company, and they did this little 2-part OVA for Sonic, and it was, of course, titled Sonic the Hedgehog the Movie for the American release, which is, again, a blatant lie.
Yeah, thank you very much, ADV. We hate you so hard.
They titled this Sonic the Movie, and with the hilarious taglines of "Scrape your knuckles, catch some tails." Which is just like,
We can make a joke reference, die.
Yeah, I'm surprised it doesn't say "Scramble some Eggmen."
Scramble some Eggman's robots.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, this OVA is genuinely, this is bad. Okay, I mean, I'm gonna point to I usually love anime, and I can I don't have a really easy time pointing to anime I can say that I thought was genuinely just terrible. This is so bad that it's honestly, it's not so bad it's good, it's just bad. There are some highlights in it, like there are occasional things I can point to and say, oh, that's actually pretty hilarious.
Exactly, like there are things I can point to and be like, okay, now that's in line with what I'm expecting from, Sonic in this medium. But overall, it's just
For the most part, it's largely disappointing.
Yeah, it's just more or less just sort of a generic kind of going through the motions sort of deal for the show.
Yeah, honestly, it feels almost like an advertisement for a game, except
it's an advertisement for Sonic CD.
Yeah, except for the fact that honestly, Sonic CD's animation is better than this.
I know, seriously. Like, what was stopping them? Maybe it was like, again, like budget concerns and whatnot. But I really think that if they had just gotten the same group or whatever that did the Sonic CD cutscenes to do this, I think it would have come out a lot higher quality.
I honestly, and I just don't really understand what's up with this universe. It's not set in any established Sonic canon. It doesn't draw anything from the games other than idiotic, random items like the tornado.
Like the tornado. I think at one point they reference South Island or something.
Maybe this is set in like the Sonic 2 continuity, but there's really nothing tangible you and I can point to. Yeah.
The Sonic 2 Game Gear continuity?
Maybe. I don't even think it's that honestly that good. Okay, so let's get this thing started. This is the product that's probably most responsible for the is Knuckles Jamaican, is Knuckles Australian debate.
Oh God, his hat is not helping matters.
No, it really isn't. As far as the actual Sonic characters go, we've got 5 canon Sonic characters in this. There's Sonic and Tails and Knuckles and Robotnik, and then you have Metal Sonic, and he's the only other authentic character.
Yeah, but for some reason they're calling him Hyper Metal Sonic, even though, as far as I can tell, there's absolutely no difference between this robot and the one that came out that was made his debut in Sonic CD.
No, there's really no logical explanation.
But it's better. It's improved.
Yeah, Robotnik just slapped the name Hyper on it and thought that would make it sound good. Wow, where to begin with this? Well, like we said, it's a 2-parter, and the running time's about 30 minutes for each episode, so that's not really that long. In the original Japanese version, it came out on on
individual VHSs.
Yeah, 2 separate VHS parts. And the American version kind of mashes both of them together and calls it a movie, which is, again, just so largely disappointing and unimpressive.
Oh God, couple that with the fact that when it first came out here, like, the only way that you could get a hold of it was in dub format, which was just absolutely atrocious.
Right, because it was on VHS until it was re-released on DVD.
That and ADV hasn't had the best track record.
No, ADV is notoriously bad when it comes to dubs and whatnot, and this one shows, and we'll get to the quality of the dub in a minute. I think the thing I really want to beat this particular presentation up for is just the fact that, like, if I had to say what the entire point of this is, Honestly, this feels like it was trying to be a pilot for something. Like Sega wanted to test the waters and see, can we get away with an anime of Sonic? And this is only 5 years into Sonic's initial run, so this is still in the classic Sonic heyday, and it shows. But I think the thing I just don't like about this OVA is simply its inconsistency. It just doesn't have anything to do with Sonic as a franchise at all. It feels like they took the Sonic characters and threw them in, insert any random low-budget early 90s anime.
Yeah, it almost really. It's almost just like they pretty much just took like a budding sci-fi what-if sort of scenario and just tossed all the Sonic characters into it and just made up extra characters along the way as they saw fit, which is just really an overall clunky way to do it.
I mean, by 1996, we had a pretty good margin of Sonic characters to draw from, and there's really just no explanation. They could have done a Sonic series with the characters they had. I don't have a problem with, animation-exclusive characters. That's going to happen in practically any cartoon series I can point to. I mean, there are going to be anime-exclusive characters, but here it's just not good, okay?
My problem with these characters is that they don't look right alongside Sonic, Tails, and all the rest.
No, they don't. They don't look like they fit in the universe at all. I mean, you have...
It's the same problem that we had with Sonic 06.
Yeah, and Sonic X as well.
Well, yeah.
But, of course, we're going to get to that one, too.
With the torches and pitchforks in hand.
Sonic OVA is basically the story of Robotnik... I don't even know what the story is. It's very confusing.
I can sum it up if you'd like me to try.
Yeah, I go for it. Robotnik pulls shenanigans, and because he's up to his old tricks again.
You know what to do. Press A to be tricked by his plot.
Exactly. Oh, I wasn't aware we were playing as Knuckles.
Oh, God. And see, that's a classic Knuckles thing. Like, oh, what? I don't know if I can trust you, Egg Guy. Well, sure you can. Well, okay. I don't know why my voice is so different, but it is. Whatever. Anyway.
I'm apparently, from south of the border now. You can count on me.
Acadona, that's why I'm representing. Never seen a mic hog spit like a menace.
On this fine gentleman's evening.
I think Knuckles was channeling Fireman there.
Okay. But regardless, yeah, that's the usual Knuckles thing, like, oh, wait, it's Robotnik. What are you doing, Robotnik?
Feeding small children
Delicious cupcakes. Okay, just checking. It's like Knuckles in the games, and, even later in Sonic X, is just largely too gullible for his own good. But the plot that Robotnik, or Eggman, whatever you want to call him in this show, either is technically accurate depending on whether you're watching the dub or the sub. But I'll be calling him Robotnik since first time I saw this, it was the dub, so I'm going off of that.
Yeah. I mean, he looks like Eggman, okay, but to me the character's name pretty much will always be Robotnik, and I only really like to use the name Eggman to refer to the post-Sonic Adventure character.
Right. Which is perfectly valid.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead.
Okay, basically the entire thing starts off, this whole shebang begins with just sort of a shadowy little story thing happening before they even show off the title card, Sonic the Hedgehog. We see, there's a secret scientist guy with a mustache and shiny glasses. Wonder who this could be that made this robot called Hyper Metal Sonic. Ooh, it's so spooky. Title card, boom, Sonic the Hedgehog. You're watching it. Cue some weird-ass music that honestly doesn't feel like it belongs in a Sonic universe, and we are just making stuff up while we go along. Do. The music is really...
is all from his life.
Zut!
No, Proto, we will not have any of that today.
You go back to your little corner of the jelly nut.
Exactly. But seriously, like, I guess the music's okay. I mean, it's really just there, but it just doesn't sound like Sonic music. And really, that's more of an anime thing and less of a, oh, this is blasphemy on film because they're not using zone music. So, I can kind of understand that, but whatever. So from there, from the title card, we go to, I guess it's South Island, where Sonic and Tails live, which is an island that, interestingly enough, has the Enterprise NCC 1701 crash-landed in the middle of it for reasons I can't even fathom. Seriously, go take a good look at that island when it scrolls into view, and you'll see that thing just crashed into pieces.
Well, bam!
Exactly. And Sonic's hanging out on the beach being a jerk because Tails is wanting to, interact with him and be a friend to him, and Sonic just wants to sit there under an umbrella and sip a drink and be a cool guy that listens to cool tunes. And Sonic's largely a jerk in this show, just to let you guys know.
Don't mess or you'll get burned.
Yeah. I'm just going to speed things along here. Some owl guy shows up and he's like, Sonic, the president of everything ever wants you to come to his house.
I love this guy. He's like the president of the planet. It's
seriously
great. And he looks like some kind of ambassador in his outfit. I mean...
Yeah. and seriously, they show up and surprise, surprise, Dr. Robotnik is there and he has the president and his... I guess she's only a quarter furry, but... Princess Sarah is largely stupid.
Nico-chan Deluxe Ultimate
Yes.
Anime Cat Girl Furry Horns and Tail Edition. I don't get what's up with her. It's like in all of this, randomly a cat girl. It follows every early 90s anime cliche you could run with.
Seriously, it's painful when it comes, specifically when it comes to Sarah. It's just painful. She contributes nothing to the actual story except, oh, we need to get people from one area to another. Let's have Dumb Chan do something stupid that makes them have to go places. Okay, sure, whatever. Just whatever. Anyway. Okay,
One thing
so
I want to pick on real quick before we
Yeah.
go from here is the voice acting in this.
Oh, you want to touch on that now?
Yeah, just this second, just so that they can imagine the rest of this plot in these voices.
Oh, this works. Okay.
When you listen to Sonic and Tails and pretty much the rest of the cast,
They all sound kind of largely like this, like they're talking while pinching their noses shut. And you sit there and you're thinking, why do they sound like they have some kind of crazy head cold? It's rather distracting and it's exceptionally annoying when you're trying to listen to Sonic, who already hasn't really had a good history of voice actors to begin with, and then you're listening to him in this show and you're thinking, oh my god, I want to blow my brains out with a shotgun.
I mean, seriously, it's not logical, and it doesn't fit any of the pre-established Sonic canon that we had.
To be fair, the nose pluggy thing is more that Tails than anybody else. He's the one that mostly sounds like this.
When you come to the country, learn the language.
Oh, you know what? I actually do have something to say about Sonic's voice acting choice specifically. Historically, ADV has always been under the assumption that any character in any anime ever that has spoken in an Osakan dialect, or a Kansai dialect, rather, those characters, they're rednecks and there's nothing you can do about it. That is the standard issue ADV method of operations.
Yeah, that's true. That's how ADV rolls. I mean,
So you've got Sonic running around everywhere talking kind of like this and saying that Tails is just like a little kid with his new toy. And that must be the entrance to the land of darkness.
I knew that was coming.
How can it not come? Like, I mean, you can ignore Sonic's retarded voice acting for, in a lot of sections because he doesn't do a whole lot of talking, so it's kind of forgivable. You kind of forget about it, but...
And 99 out of every 100 things Dr. Robotnik says is a lie.
But what if this is that one other time?
No! Falling on the ground over the top anime reaction.
I mean, seriously, it's terrible. Actually, Robotnik is fairly spot on. I mean, Robotnik is a very difficult voice to screw up.
Yeah.
pretty much just scream belligerently, and there you go, you have Robotnik.
That sounds about right. This is closer to the AOSTH form of Robotnik than, definitely more than Saddam.
Oh, absolutely. And even then, I would still say that Long John Baldry is a far, far, far better voice actor than Edwin Neal. I mean,
absolutely. I would have much rather had... Seriously, this anime would have been so much better if they had gotten Long John Baldry to do Robotnik in this one. It would have been entertaining.
Oh, yeah, because he's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, he really is.
Robotnik's plot in this is largely retarded. I mean, Sonic shows up to the ambassador president man's house to see him and his furry Neko-eared Chan daughter jailbait held at gunpoint. Seriously, they're held at gunpoint by these SWAT bot, like chunky SWAT bot rejects. It's like you combine the design of a SWAT bot with the design of an egg robo, and you have these things. They're so retarded looking.
These are slot bots.
There we go. That works. I don't even know why he felt like he had to hold them, hostage, basically, because his message.
Robotnik's plan is largely tricking Sonic into finding Robotnik.
Exactly. I mean,
it doesn't make any sense at all.
I think he holds him at gunpoint, like just to get Sonic's, attention, because he's not even really threatening Sonic. He's asking Sonic for help.
Which is basically, Robotnik's plan is largely, I need you to travel to Robotnik Land, and I need you to basically go fight me there, except I'm not actually telling you that you'll be fighting me, I'm just telling you to go to Robotnik Land.
Because, see, there's an evil me. There's a metal Robotnik that came out of nowhere and attacked my peaceful city with a battalion of robots. They conquered us and drove me out of my home. Metal Robotnik then sabotaged the robot generator, which provides electricity for the entire city. It is running uncontrollably, and there is no place to store this excess electricity. According to my calculations, if the robot generator isn't stopped by sunrise tomorrow, there will be a giant explosion.
Shut up! Eat me!
That is...
Fine!
Wow,
Don't
that
blame
is
me when this
honestly-
happens!
That is honestly amazingly spot on. I think you just taught my Wily soccer rant.
The sad thing is that I think that's verbatim.
I think it is. I think you're right. Wow, I'm going to have to work, overtime to come up with something to beat that later.
Thank you.
Good job.
But so that's basically Robotnik's plan in a nutshell. And, spoiler alert, it's a trap.
It's a tarpaulin!
Seriously. I mean, Sonic and Tails get to the Land of Darkness, and they make
The
their
land
way...
of dorkness, maybe, am I right?
The land of dorkacity. Totally. And they're attacked by this big... if they had at least used the design of the giant menacing thing at the end of Sonic 2, it would have been acceptable. But this thing is basically a large, rotund-ish battle robot that I guess resembles Eggman slightly. It's really a stretch.
Oh, I refer to that thing from Sonic 2 as the automated death machine, because that's about all it is.
But still, I would have much rather had seen that thing.
That thing is genuinely horrifying. This is just it just looks like a punk rocker Robotnik on stilt legs.
Yeah, with bat wings. Seriously, what the hell? Bat wings?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all. It's like steampunk Nick or something.
Yeah.
I don't really know what to call this thing.
So they're fighting it. Knuckles shows up at some point, and he's like, "Oh, you guys are in trouble. I'll help you." And I'm wearing a hat, and my shoes' color scheme is completely reversed, and no one ever notices this.
And I can fly, inexplicably.
Yeah, Knuckles can fly in this show very much the same way that Tails can, which I'm fine with. We've talked about this before, but...
It's really
no.
lazy-assed. I mean,
Yeah.
he looks like he flies almost Superman style.
He
and
really does.
First off, the thing to know about Knuckles as a character is he can't fly. He glides. This
Yeah.
is not in his move roster.
And what I meant about us talking about this, Flash and I have discussed before that, feasibly he could glide, but that's largely the same principle as hang gliding, I guess, where you have to actually catch an updraft in order to stay in the air instead of eventually crashing.
So anyway, they go to Robotnikville, Place, Land, World, Town, Darkness, and they beat up this metal Robotnik that's obviously, Robotnik. And don't they cut to a scene where Robotnik and Sarah are inside that thing, controlling it?
Yeah, actually, that's what I was getting at by saying that she is basically the let's get to point B MacGuffin-chan.
Oh yeah, she's a MacGuffin girl.
Because like his. I guess maybe he had it set on autopilot or something, but like he's sitting around at the presidential suite or wherever that is, and then all of a sudden like one of the walls like explodes inwards, and the metal Robotnik cockpit appears, and Robotnik's like, okay, it's time for me to go do my thing, and Sarah freaks out and goes like, yay, this is an awesome contraption, I get to drive it now, and so she hops in, and it basically takes off with her still in it.
Oh yeah, and also Robotnik and Sarah play Virtua Fighter or something like that briefly.
Yeah, that's a cute little scene. That actually is probably one of my favorite little scenes, just because it's so random but funny.
It is. It's kind of like watching Tails shooting around the water on his little surfboard thing.
Yeah.
His new toy. But anyway, moving on.
Okay, so they take out the metal Robotnik Black Eggman thing. They go inside the Robot Land place. They shut down the generator Magogger. Surprise, surprise! It's a trap. And since of course Sonic's the only one who's a bad enough dude to shut down the Robotropolis energy power generator thing, he gets trapped in it. And I think it's. Something like his life data is being downloaded from his brain while he's trapped inside this thing. And basically, Sonic fell into the trap that turned on Metal Sonic. And they have like some sort of mind link now because of stuff.
Even though Metal Sonic doesn't act anything like the authentic Sonic at all, but whatever.
Yeah, seriously. I think Robotnik just built a shiny, pretty robot, but ran out of time to actually program the thing. So he was relying on Sonic, getting to the end of the obviously fake fetch quest and falling into the trap.
I can totally see Deke Sonic falling into that machine and Metal Sonic shoving hot dog buns against his head.
Okay.
Trying to eat them. Just like, it's not working!
From there, the thing is honestly pretty much just, we gotta stop Metal Sonic. And there's some slight deviations, like Sonic gets lost at some point. But largely the rest of it is basically just, Metal Sonic's going around doing crazy stuff. You know what to do, Sonic. You gotta stop him at the top of the world, which is filled with lava and could destroy the world if you're not careful. So you gotta destroy it while you're fighting Metal Sonic, because that's what you're doing, and Knuckles gets his hat burned off. And then it's over, yay!
And it'll also become an Arctic wasteland. We can't decide whether it's an Arctic wasteland or a volcano, really. It's kind of weird how that works.
Seriously, you just get really lost by the end of this thing.
It's like a hidden ice cap, palace, rock, volcano, valley, magnet zone, Act 5.
It's lava cap.
I don't understand what the hell is going on in this cartoon.
Yeah.
It's just random, and the voice acting is terrible, in both versions, by the way, so that's not limited to just the dub.
But still, I would rather put up with... actually, this is an interesting thing to note. Tails' Japanese voice actor is the same voice actor that does Mega Man or Rockman's voice acting in the Power Battle and Power Fighters games.
That is correct, actually. Hikaru Shina, the first official seiyuu for Rockman.
Yep.
And when you listen to the American dub voices, like Martin Burke for Sonic the Hedgehog, he was probably about 15 when he did the Sonic voice.
Are you serious?
He was born in 1984, and that came out domestically in 1999.
That pisses me off. I could have done that voice so much better.
Yeah, both of us could have.
And I was the same age.
Wow. He was actually, and that's the only real voice actor role I can see that he's had, except for playing some guy named Sumida in something called Die Guard, which I don't even know what that is.
You don't even worry about it. It's unimportant.
Okay, thank you. I mean, at least Knuckles is somewhat more well known because it's the same voice actor. Bill Wise is Leonardo from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
That's true. I forgot about that.
Everybody else is just like randomly thrown in this, and it doesn't have anything resembling like a top tier cast or anything at all. So that's kind of it's kind of random, really. This whole thing is just really random.
Yeah,
and it doesn't like I said, it's inconsistent. It doesn't feel like Sonic at all. It doesn't have any of the Sonic items you can point to and be like, rings, Chaos Emeralds, Badniks.
Actually, there is like one Badnik, I think, in this entire thing, and it's plowed. Maybe two, I don't remember, but there's one specific Badnik that I remember Sonic plowing through spectacularly on his way to Eggmantropolis.
Oh yeah, it's like that caterpillar thing
Yeah.
from Sonic Chaos, but on steroids.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Okay, I'm sorry, I retract my statement. There's a Badnik in this show.
Yeah, a Badnik.
But there's like nothing else.
There's a spring.
Okay, yeah, that's great. There's like nothing to tie this to the Sonic universe, and that's what makes it so just off-putting.
Robotnik
It's
doesn't even
alien
fly
and
around in
foreign.
his Eggomatic, which is largely retarded to me. It's like you really needed to give him his own little, space shuttle instead of the fun little flying pod thing that we're used to.
Yeah, it's not even as random as the space shuttle Robotnik uses in Sonic CD, which is seriously, that thing is completely unlike any other Eggomatic he uses.
Yeah.
I mean, why does it have skids on it? And, he just... This thing that Robotnik flies around in the OVA just doesn't... It looks weird.
It's
doesn't
not
look
something
right.
It's not something that Robotnik would actually build and fly around in.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Sonic OVA. It's just inconsistent and weird, and I don't think either of us like it. So yeah, there you go.
Pretty much. I mean, it's basically just an exercise in beating around the bush and really ending up with at the same point that you started from. You don't feel like you get anywhere having sat through the story, and it's just largely completely unimportant. Honestly, just skip over it and go on to something better.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch it, it's only for nostalgic purposes. Like I said, it feels like this was supposed to be a pilot for something.
Yeah.
Almost like this is the Sonic version of Upon a Star, except I would say Upon a Star is probably better overall for staying consistent with the universe it came from.
Yeah.
This does not feel like Sonic. Like, Sonic is in it, and that's about the only thing I can really point to and say, oh, okay. What's next? Are we going to do the short next, or Sonic X?
We can touch on the short. This is going to be a really short explanation.
Us.
Oh, we're
such a card, us non-anons.
Absolutely.
Okay. Sonic short. You touch on this one. I'm not gonna steal this privilege from you.
Okay. I mentioned this before. One of the interesting little well, first of all, let's start with Sonic Jam, which is
Sonic Jam.
Sonic Jam.
Sonic Jam. It's awesome. It's honestly, Sonic Jam is probably the killer app for the Sega Saturn.
Seriously, right up there with Christmas Nights.
It's freaking great.
But as we've said before, one of the interesting things about Sonic Jam is that within the Sonic World aspect of Sonic Jam, there is a movie theater that you can run up to as Sonic, and you can watch all these different videos relating to the Blue Blur
Sonic,
as he. Basically from beginning to present day, or at the time that is. So you could watch commercials from Sonic 1, which we watched that when I went to visit Flashman was it a couple of years ago, or was it only last year? I can't remember.
It was last year.
Wow, time passes way too fast.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
And we just had like this huge giggle fest over that because it's like really terrible claymation animation. Flick.
Sonic is spinning on a hood ornament on a car. And
This
he's
looks
also made out of
painful.
Play-Doh.
But one of the and like they had the Sonic CD, various movies in there as well, which is a cool touch.
That was, and those are actually legitimately entertaining commercials too.
Yeah, absolutely. But one of the things that they had in there was really interesting. It was I don't even know if it was 5 minutes long, but it was this little animated short, mainly starring Dr. Robotnik, honestly, or Dr. Eggman, I guess, since I don't think this ever saw the light of day overseas, except in the form of Sonic Jam.
There's also like no dialogue in this either.
Yeah,
which
none
makes it
whatsoever.
doubly creepy.
What did you say the music they use for it is?
Metallic Madness from the Japanese Sonic CD.
Yeah, that's right. That's really interesting. But it's this cute little animated short featuring Dr. Eggman waking up in his egg hideout. You know, it reminds me a lot of the AOSTH hideout. It even has a giant golden Robotnik statue outside of it. But he wakes up, you know, he has his cute little Eggman pajamas and fuzzy bunny slippers on. So he wakes up and, you know, you hear do 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 do. He yawns, pours himself a cup of coffee and grabs the daily, you know, the newspaper off the porch and goes in, you know, sits down and you know, begins sipping his coffee, takes a look at the front page and then spits his coffee all over the place and looks at the paper like he wants to destroy its very existence. Sonic's on the front page. Oh, Sonic! Yay, he did something good. I'm so angry! I will crumple you, newspaper. Crumple, crumple, crumple. And he throws it at his TV, which then turns on and shows that Sonic's going to be awarded a Man of the Year award or something.
Even though he's not technically a man.
Yeah, but those semantics aside. And just Robotnik is furious at this. He grabs a little Sonic plushie out from this random pile of stuff in his hideout and begins strangling it. And then all of a sudden, I guess, has an idea from strangling this doll. And
yeah, he's gonna wear it.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense then. He grabs it and, you know, runs off to his, you know, laboratory, I guess. I'm gonna get some Schlemmers from the cooler and get to work.
You know, this thing isn't even 2 minutes long. I'm looking at it on YouTube, and it's like, it's 1 minute and 36 seconds, I believe.
Oh, wow. That
Yeah.
is hella short.
It just feels like honestly, like a trailer for something, rather than
Seriously,
anything else.
It almost feels like it could have been, like, maybe a pilot sort of thing for AOSTH, honestly, because, like... Because honestly, this next part is so AOSTH Robotnik ingeniousness that it almost hurts. I mean, they cut to the next scene, Sonic's running through the city, and then as Sonic runs past, like, some point in the road, Robotnik, decked out in this, you know, obviously believable Sonic outfit, you know, turns on his rocket roller skates that he's wearing and begins to, like, do madcap things like...
Did anybody even inquire
eggs.
as to why the hell Robotnik has a Sonic plush in the first place?
Target practice?
Maybe. And I think the really stupid thing is as I'm watching this clip right now in its entirety, there is a scene where Sonic and Robotnik Sonic are running literally like 3 feet from each other.
And Sonic never notices.
And yeah, now Sonic gets dubbed Worst of the Year, which is just what's really retarded by this whole thing.
And then it ends with Robotnik, like, standing on a building off in the distance, and Sonic notices him, and he's like, gasp! I've been duped! And then you see Robotnik standing off in the distance wearing the Sonic costume going, ooh, 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 ooh. And then he kind of does, like, a stupid little cartwheel where he's standing there, and then it's just over.
Yeah, exactly. And it ends with "to be continued," which is a
Please
lie.
No. I know, that is a dead lie. Well, if it's to be continued in the form of AOSTH, then it's 100% accurate.
Yeah, and apparently Robotnik, like, shape-shifted and went from, AOS, or went from this actual established video game design to AOSTH, Nick. Nobody knows anything about this short. I've Googled it. I've searched everywhere.
You can take that up with Sonic the Comic, though, the design switch.
Yeah, I mean, there's like no explanation, really, at all about this. There's no... I don't know what is up with this thing. It's just weird. And
to me, it's a lot like that Sonic the Ride thing that's also on Sonic Jam.
Yeah, maybe Sonic Jam was just where they decided to dump a lot of their really bizarre like cutting room floor stuff, and they thought that would be a good idea, but not actually explain it. So
yeah.
Anyway, it happened, and that's about it, really.
Yeah, we're no better or worse for the wear, so whatever. There it is.
Well, last in the list, and probably the series most deserving of this spot, although Sonic Underground comes so close, we have Sonic X. Wow.
Yep.
It's Sonic X. In the early to mid 2000s, I say this with kind of a retrospective look, since we are, after all, at the end of 2009, so the 2000s are pretty much practically over by now, and we're moving on into the tens, I guess you could say. Beginning in the early part of this decade, starting probably around, I'd say, 2001 to 2003 was really when this trend really started getting big. A popular thing for anime was to take various video game series and other such stuff and adapt it with the intent of making anime out of popular video games.
Yeah.
Sonic did this with Sonic X, happened with Rockman EXE, happened with F-Zero, happened with Kirby. A lot of series kind of ran and did this. I'm surprised that Mario didn't jump on the bandwagon for it, and I think it's kind of just interesting how this whole thing played out. And so Sonic X is part of this wave of video game series turned into animes that happened in this specific era. When you watch Sonic X, and when you look at it, as far as animation, quality and budget and production, I mean, It's up there. It feels and looks spectacular in terms of just visual representation.
Yeah, it looks accurate to the source material, especially considering that this is largely a tie-in to the Adventure and Advance series.
Right. And it definitely, if there is a Sonic series that feels like it's basically disguised marketing for the video games, Sonic X is that series. More so than SatAM, which had very little to no ties with the video games.
Yeah.
And same with AOSTH, same with Underground. I mean, this is actually the first series that legitimately does feel like it's trying to tie in and trying to basically, I don't want to use the term cash in, but that's really kind of what it felt like. Sonic X's plot is much more complicated and much more in-depth than any of the other series that we presented. I'd say even more than SatAM. Although complicated is not necessarily better, because complicated usually leads to convoluted, and convoluted usually leads to crap. And with Sonic X, it is definitely, you can see that nice little three-step process there. Sonic X is crap, really, and I can't pretty it up. I mean, it looks good, and, it impresses. It's a delight to the eye. But that's about really all it is. If you want to see the Sonic characters with decent voice acting and decent, representation...
I think largely the Japanese voice acting, I think it's pretty much all the same voice actors that were used.
Yeah.
Exactly, that were used in Sonic Adventure 1 and 2.
That's correct. That's why it's good.
Yeah.
And Sonic X is a controversy machine for modern Sonic fans, since it basically, with its start, we lost the entirety of the Sonic video game voice acting cast. and replace them with the actors that play the characters on this show.
Oh, you're talking about the dub, right?
Yeah, for the dub specific. It's just Sonic X is just it's just I don't really know how to define it. I guess let's hit the plot of this first.
Okay.
Okay, so I am actually going to have to call him Eggman for this, aren't I?
Please do.
Okay. Yeah, because I don't want to link him to the good Robotnik in my mind.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Eggman goes around and collects the 7 Chaos Emeralds somehow.
Yeah, this is the first episode.
Yeah, in the first episode, he had a Chaos Emerald magnet or something. I don't know, or maybe he actually bothered gathering 50 rings and jumping into lampposts. And,
You know, I want to say that probably actually it's interesting because they kind of did the same thing or something like the same thing at the beginning of Sonic World Adventure, Sonic Unleashed.
Right, yeah. Robotnik, it's basically the...
it starts at the end of the game.
Yeah, this anime starts basically mid-Sonic foiling Eggman plot. Eggman gathers up the Chaos Emeralds, and he's strapping them into some kind of wacky contraption, and you see Sonic running through these various, I don't know, infantry, military units that Robotnik has, Eggman has stationed outside of his base. And
that is a really awesome sort of montage, though.
Yeah, it's a cool scene. I mean, Sonic's going around bashing up these gunner robots and doing all kinds of really neat, zigzag maneuvers. I mean, it's classic Sonic right here. It looks beautiful. Yeah. And, then he runs into, Eggman's little fortress, and he's busting stuff up, and it's just kind of neat. And Tails and Amy are flying around in the tornado outside, and there's really no explanation for what they're doing other than they're about to crash.
They're offering air support. Initially, Tails swoops in and actually activates the machine guns on the tornado.
Right, that's right. And they're basically, they're helping Sonic out, and Tails throws Sonic a power ring, which the power rings.
I forgot that those were in here. Actually,
yeah, the power rings in Sonic X seem to have roughly the same effect that they do on Sat-Amp Sonic, in that for a brief amount of time, if Sonic grabs a power ring, he becomes super turbo ultra charged and gets to run around and destroy stuff at rapid fire rates.
He gets to transform into a ball of CG blueness and spin dash through everything.
Yes, exactly. I mean, Sonic could probably spin dash through solid diamond if he wanted to. And it's basically just ridiculous and over the top. But it's Sonic, and you know what? We love it. I mean, that's what he's there for. So he goes around, he blows up all these machines, goes inside Eggman's fortress, and it's basically the first episode serves to cameo all of the Sonic characters that were, established in the canon at that time.
Yeah.
You see Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, Amy. Big the Cat is officially the first Sonic character you see, I should mention.
Wait, is he really, or is he the last?
No, he is the first one that you see in the episode. He's fishing in a little lake, and then you see Sonic running around. And it's basically just a montage of all of the Sonic characters. Sonic gets inside Eggman's fortress. He's in there basically with this little switch, and he's like, if I push this switch, bad things will happen. And Sonic's like, but if I can take the switch away from you before you push it, then bad things won't happen. And Eggman is so baffled by the stupidity of this statement that apparently he doesn't notice a robot coming into the room to attack Sonic. So Sonic runs around the room, Cream's inside this little cage with cheese in her lap, and inexplicably Rouge is spying on Eggman, maybe to steal the Chaos Emeralds or something and waiting for an opportune time.
They're shiny. She wants them.
I know. It's awesome. And so you see all of them just basically in this room, and Sonic runs around the room, the robot's shooting and everything. Eggman has the switch in his hand, and he's like,
No, don't shoot the machine, you idiot. If you do, then bad things will happen.
And then he presses the switch, and bad things happen.
Yep.
The Chaos Emeralds in the machine go haywire. You really don't have any idea what Eggman was trying to accomplish with this. I don't think it's ever really explained.
And even later on, I think he actually rebuilds the exact same contraption, and maybe it's to fuel some sort of giant robot or something.
Maybe.
But, like, you really have no idea what he was trying to go for here.
No, it's just Eggman put this thing together and stuff happened. So, Sonic gets here and, you know, if I can take the Switch away from you before you actually push the button, then I'll save the world. What? And in the time it took you to spout that sentence off, I mean, you know, it just doesn't make any sense. So anyway, Sonic runs around the room, bad things happen, the machine explodes, and everybody is transported via Chaos Control to...
Yeah, Knuckles actually calls it right as it's happening. Like, oh, great, thanks, you could have warned us a little earlier, Knux.
Yeah, GJ. And he's standing there, and it's like, you know, Amy and Tails are outside, they're in the tornado, and Knuckles is just so largely ineffective during this story. I mean, it's basically he's playing, you know, his standard issue, loner, you know, true neutral, won't get involved kind of character. But in reality, all he really does is stand around and act pretentious. So it's like, okay. I mean, he really is idiotic in this particular anime. I don't get the whole point of him being here at all. And so basically, you see him looking at, you know, this building, and it's hilarious. It's like, you know, Knuckles, tell us what is happening! Chaos Control. It's like, oh, wow, okay, thanks, that helps. And so they get teleported into, you know, the real world, I guess. Or our world, anyway, Earth. I don't think they ever actually straight up and up call it Mobius in Sonic X. I think it's basically they just refer to it as Sonic's World or something to that effect.
They never actually give it... I would even maybe go as far as to say that Mobius is a term that we in America...
In America! I was gonna do it, and you were beating me to it.
I seriously want to say that is probably a term that we came up with, you know, with Sega of America.
Yeah, and instead, you know, it's maybe it's kind of like the Poco Pen Earth thing or something. I don't know. So
you mean? Oh God, what did they call it? Wussians.
Yes, thank you. That dub is official now. I hate it so very. Anyway, so the Sonic characters get sent to the real world, which is strange. Obviously, of course, this being Earth, people have never seen a, you know, anthropomorphic, you know, 4-foot tall
blue hedgehog,
talking hedgehog that sleeps at the speed of sound.
I love that he actually causes a traffic jam.
Basically, the premise that we have here is that Sonic and his friends get transported to Earth, and the officials, for lack of a better term, the police and the paranormal investigation people, and I don't know, everyone ever, is apparently they got scattered around, you know, various parts of the city / planet, whatever, and like in Cream's case, Cream ends up with she ends up actually getting captured by some really freaky, isn't it?
By basically Area 51.
Yeah, basically, yeah, those guys. And
the gun military.
Yeah, actually, they are the ones that pick her up. That's epic and fail. I think Sonic X is really trying to explain why the Sonic games, starting with Adventure, are like suddenly humans. It's like, you know,
yeah,
humans
seriously.
happened here, and it's like, yeah, because they weren't in Sonic games prior to this. I mean, there's Robotnik, who's questionably a human. And, you know, it's basically just like all of a sudden you see all of these humans running around in the Sonic universe. I think Sonic X is really trying to explain that. I think that's the whole point.
Yeah, honestly.
So the characters get, you know, basically scattered around. Like, Amy ends up with Knuckles, which is just a laugh riot, because Knuckles is so callous and indifferent, and Amy is so clingy and needy, that seeing the two of them together is just a kick in the pants funny.
Honestly, everything I think is pretty much, for the most part, fine until Ken Pender's niece and nephew show up.
Yeah, in the form of Chris.
Exactly.
It's just silly, honestly. I mean, it really is. It's just really, really silly how the whole thing works. And so basically, so Sonic runs around, and he's, you know, there's actually this legitimately awesome scene, and this is probably my favorite scene in the entirety of Sonic X, Because
and see, that's good because you only have to watch the first episode to get it.
Yeah, that's what's really so great about Sonic X. Like, when I watched the first couple of episodes, I thought, man, it's Sonic, and it's an anime, it's really good, the show's got a really cool premise, I really like this, and Sonic X is one of those series that manages to go rapidly downhill as you watch it.
Yeah.
And so the first episode, Sonic is running around after he gets sent to Earth. He's running down this highway, looting the cops, basically, and being his cool little blue rebel self. And some jerk named Sam Speed, and you find out his significance later.
Yeah.
He and his he's apparently like this super awesome cop that gets to...
He's the only cop on the force that has the keys to, apparently, a rocket on wheels.
Yeah, Sam drives a Formula 1 car, okay? And he and his team members drive it, and it's a straight-up Formula 1 race car. And so they hop in it, and I'm like, what kind of criminals are you going to be pulling over in a Formula 1? I mean, honestly, it's like, stop and pull over. Like, I could throw a pebble at your axle and it would snap right off. I'm sorry. Formula 1 cars are designed for one thing, like, going really, really fast in sprints. And they're not, granted, they can be used in endurance races, but... it's not really a practical car, I don't think, for a cop to pull somebody over in. So,
absolutely not.
Anyway, so Sam hops in this. I mean, I'd sooner pull somebody over in a stock car than a Formula 1. They take so long just to load into and get set up on. So Sam and all of these guys are called out by the cops. They're like, there's this unidentified blue object, moving at ridiculous speeds down the highway. And they're like, we have to stop it. Get all the civilians off of my road. My road! And he's like way over the top insane, cop kind of character. He's like the worst hybrid of a cop and a race car driver poured into one shell.
Yeah, that's accurate. He just kind of takes the worst traits from each.
Yeah, and melds them into one. So they throw him in this car and he takes off with his team. And Sam is so over the top and cocky. Well, anyway, it doesn't take him long to catch up to Sonic, because Sonic's, like, jogging, okay? I mean, he's not even, like, really running. He's just, for Sonic, it's almost like a brisk walk.
At one point, he actually turns around, begins running backwards, and is still outracing the police cars.
Yeah, that's how hilariously awesome Sonic is. So they catch up to Sonic, and, he's like, oh, who are you? Because he's, like, completely caught off guard by this. And the cops are like, well, it's not polite for you to walk off, it's bad manners, and anyway, I'm Sam Speed, I'm the most awesome person ever, and I drive a race car, and I was going to tell you blah, 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 and he goes through this, 30-minute lecture, and Sonic is so bored listening to it, it's funny.
I know, until Sam actually gets to the point where he's like, I'm gonna race you.
And
Sonic's
like,
oh, this is legitimately interesting now.
Yeah, oh, a challenge. the tall, squishy person thinks he can keep up with me. This should be cute.
Oh, you.
Seriously, Sonic practically all but gives him the middle finger and an OU. And so Sam hops in his car and gives Sonic a little head start and then takes off after him. And he fires up this nitrous and, this magical diamond elixir rocket modification booster that he's strapped into this car. I mean, he basically, Sam pulls out all the stops going after Sonic, and Sonic is at first legitimately caught off guard by how fast this car can move. And so then he catches up, and then he starts riding on top of it, and, he just, jumps up on the car, and there's this hilarious scene in the subbed version anyway. And Sonic basically tells the viewer, good kids shouldn't try this at home. This isn't.
I remember that.
Emulate. And so then he's running around. He starts screwing with these cops. So they try to box him in, and he gets out of that. And then finally Sam just pulls out all the stops and goes after Sonic.
Yeah, I love how in the end I think at some point Sam actually pulls past Sonic, and Sonic's like, holy crap, and Sam's like, look at me, my pingus is gigantic.
And then Sonic
actually passes him anyway, I swear, he was, like, super peel-outing or something.
Yeah, he just screws with Sam at that point. And you know Sonic's probably still not running at full speed.
Probably not.
No, and so he just, like, outruns Sam backwards, just to basically all but flip him off. Then he takes off down the road. Well, anyway, the road runs out, and Sonic, of course, doesn't realize this, and he gets to going too fast to stop. So he slows down, hits the end of this road, and ends up flying off the edge of it. And so you see Sonic sail over this, I guess, like Tokyo or wherever this is supposed to be, Station
Square.
City, yeah. He sails over Station Square for like a minute and a half, and he's like, "This is beautiful." And I half expected him to say something like, "This is amazing." He actually does say something Englishy.
Sonic says a lot of things Englishy.
Yeah, I think that's because Sonic is supposed to be an American in America.
In America!
In America! So he floats over the city for like a minute, and he's like, "Wow, this is beautiful." And he's like, "Oh crap, I can't fly." and falls
then
into
he
a
sees that
swimming
he's... Yeah, and at that point it's like, "Oh crap, I can't swim!"
And so anyway, he lands in the swimming pool of this beautiful mansion. What a place to land, Sonic. You've got such exquisite taste. And even when he crash lands in luxury. That's just how awesome Sonic is. And anyway, so we see and this is like right where the show goes to crap.
Yeah.
We see Chris this young
Thorndike.
kid with Higsby hair, come booking it out of his mansion in his pajamas, and he's like, "I heard something land in the pool." I'm like, Sonic only weighs something like 35 or 40 pounds. All right. So this wouldn't have sounded really any louder than maybe pitching like a bag of chlorine or something in the pool. Yeah, he would have heard a splash. I doubt that would have been enough to wake him up, though. But anyway, as fate would have it, Chris comes running out of the mansion and leaps into the pool and pulls Sonic out. And it's the start of the most beautiful friendship, or more accurately, the most annoying tag-along the Sonic series has ever had to deal with. And yes, I say that with full knowledge of Elise and Chip.
Seriously.
I mean, seriously, Chris is the scourge of the Sonic series. He is about as welcome as Kaworu in Evangelion. Like, you see him,
Seriously.
and you're like, this is where the series stops being entertaining.
Yeah, Chris is basically the Gary Stu of this show.
This
is the male protagonist designed to let all the freaking, 6-year-old kids that are actually into the show still by this point, this is the guy that lets them put themselves in his shoes. His personality is so non-existent that is... The reason his personality is so non-existent is so he can play this, this role of basically the kid watching the show's avatar.
Yeah, that's really about it. I mean, he's basically, it's kind of... I want you to think of every shonen protagonist and take all of their worst traits, and that's Chris. He doesn't have anything redeeming.
There's no depth to him.
No special skills, no nothing. He's just the kid watching the show. And you find him sitting there, you sit here watching this character thinking to yourself, why and for what purpose? Really, what purpose? Chris is a really good example of Sega channeling Capcom and appealing to a demographic that doesn't actually exist. I mean, really, ultimately, that's what Chris is. He's basically a demographic ploy that's not actually tangible.
An actual demographic.
Yeah, he's just because I know kids that would watch this show that would find Chris irritating. I mean, he's just not... He lacks depth, he lacks character, he lacks really anything.
Really... The choice to include Chris in this story, you could have taken Chris completely out of the story and just basically had Sonic and his friends trying to make it in this strange and fanciful new world on their own, and that could have sufficed right there. I do not understand the necessity of including Christopher Thorndike basically as the replacement for Tails. He is, hot glued and soldered to Sonic, kind of like how Tails used to be back in the old days. Basically, Tails comes along and it's basically like,
"Hey, how'd you like my new friend Sonic?"
"No thanks, he's mine now."
That's about it, really, with Chris. I would have even been fine with Chris as a character if he had appeared like once every 10 episodes and had basically just been there largely for the excuse to give Sonic a place to live.
Yeah.
And basically played like, you know, the next door neighbor Wilson kind of character to Sonic's Tim Allen. Like, yeah, he's there, and, you know, oh, it's that guy that I occasionally go to whenever I need, you know, financial help or something. But instead, Chris is clingy and needy and sticks to Sonic, and he's, you know, he wants to tag along on all of Sonic's adventures, you know, and it's basically, even Sonic himself is, after a while, you start to notice he's largely irritated with Chris.
And he's such a and like the thing about this Sonic is that this is still the acceptable Sonic that we can actually understand and relate to. Like, he is enough of a nice guy that he's not going to tell Chris to go to hell just because he's irritating the shit out of him.
Yeah,
but,
even when you can tell he is.
Yeah, like, you can definitely see that Sonic starts getting, you know, a little short-tempered when, you know, Chris is doing his Chris thing. But Sonic is enough of a nice guy that he's like, alright, you know what? You can do whatever you want. I know what I have to do. So if you're gonna tag along, sure, whatever. I might, you know, if something happens and you need me to help you, I will. But this is largely on you.
Chris basically becomes like the human mascot. Like, you know, they need a mascot character, and basically Chris gets to fly around in the ship with Sonic, and it's almost honestly like, you know, you guys really felt like Sonic needed another character? Really? Why? And that's really about it. It's just...
But at least, you know what? At least the Babylonian rogues weren't involved.
Yeah, that's true. Thank God Sonic X predated them. And it's basically, that's about it, really, with Sonic X. It's just, Chris tags along, and so the rest of the plot of the show is about them trying to collect all the Chaos Emeralds so that they can redo whatever it was that they did and go back home.
And the infuriating thing is that most of the emeralds are discovered and reclaimed during filler episodes.
Yeah. And then as the emeralds are reclaimed one by one, Eggman gets his hands on them again.
Because the Sonic characters can't, you know, our heroes actually can't hold on to them for longer than 5 minutes without, oh, whoopsie, Butterfingers. It's mine now.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, you know, I mean, seriously, can you imagine playing as like a Zelda game where every time you open up a chest, yoink, it's mine now. That would be frightening. That would be a frightening concept.
It's largely like how in Sonic Adventure 1, when you grab an emerald, Robotnik comes along and just snatches it out of your grip anyway.
Yeah, that's about it in this show. It's like, I got an emerald. No, you didn't. And
I got an emerald?
Yeah, exactly. It's like Eggman's like, look at this emerald I found in Sonic's pocket. And that's about it, really. And
possession's 9/10 of the law.
And I am the law. And so Eggman goes around snatching up the emeralds to do Eggman-related tasks with them, and then he just kind of gets this idea in his head, and he's like, hey, you know what? I'm just going to take over this planet instead. Because it doesn't really matter where I put Eggman Land. I mean, I could put it here, I could put it on Sonic's planet.
As long as it's Eggman Land.
Yeah, it's Eggman Land. I'll make everybody subservient to me, regardless of where they are.
And see, the really scary thing, like, this is genuinely disturbing, because basically, by all rights, in this world, Eggman is essentially a comic book villain brought to life with all of his powers in a world that does not match what he is used to. So he is way overpowered in this new setting.
Oh yeah, I mean, Eggman is basically, you know, it's like, imagine slapping a Robotnik character in our world. They're not ready to accept, even with, you know, tanks and guns and missiles and whatnot. I mean, Eggman, for being, you know, pants on backwards retarded sometimes, he actually gets away with some occasionally genius stuff. And all of his weapons, I mean, even the most basic of, you know, Eggbotnik's arsenal, the Eggomatic, is still something that our scientists, that's like way beyond our level of technologic understanding right now. We couldn't begin to put something like that together. We can imagine it, but we don't have the ability to make it so. And so basically, the Eggman plots in this show are a step up from previous cartoon Eggman plots, but it's kind of like, his whole method of operation is running around and doing crap like, swindling people out of money with, his egg inventions.
It's largely like Dr. Wily from Ruby Spears style
plots.
Yeah,
it's like that level
I'm going
of plots.
Go, my faithful roulette-generated robot, rob the bank.
Oh, that's another awesome thing, which I want to mention, even though it has no bearing on anything. Eggman selects all of his robots that he uses for his schemes using a deck of cards inserted into a slot machine.
Yeah.
I don't even understand how that... Like, a deck of cards is already random enough to begin with. Why do you have to put it in a slot machine?
Because it's awesome, and he said so.
I guess so. It's basically like, Dr. Eggman, why are you putting a deck of cards in a slot machine?
Because shut up! You're so idiot.
And that's basically like he hand waves it. It's like, okay, whatever, Eggman. And he does a lot of crap like that. Like a lot of his robots are irritatingly ass. He builds all kinds of weird crap, like a teacher robot to take over Chris's school, which is then defeated by Sonic. A Airman fan-style chicken robot to...
Oh yeah, I forgot about
around
that one.
A field. I don't really understand its practical purpose. Sonic beats that too. Just really a lot of stupid, wacky robot things that he puts together. He puts together like this.
An interesting thing that I would like to note is that these robots are the E series before, and it's like E01 or E001 and like 003, etc.
Yeah, these are basically supposed to be the forerunners to Gamma and its brethren.
Yeah,
which is just hysterically bad because Gamma and his brethren show up in the
second
anime
season
later, like way later in season 2.
Yeah.
Season 1 is basically insert random Eggman plots and silliness. Season 2 is let's adapt all of the games.
Yeah.
That feel relevant, and so it's basically adaptations of Sonic Adventure and Sonic Adventure 2. Another interesting thing to know is that until you get to Season 3, Shadow, when he is introduced in the Sonic Adventure 2 arc, actually dies at the end and stays dead.
He does not come back. They do not pull a Sonic Heroes.
No, they don't. I mean, he stays dead, and he appears in Season 3, which technically isn't even canon within Sonic X, but whatever. But basically, and I'm not even sure if it's the same Shadow, it could very easily be a clone, but the point is Shadow very inherently dies in the anime.
See, what I find hysterical about that is that the producers of the anime understood that Shadow's death is a powerful thing, and that you can't...
It's a motivator, yeah.
Exactly. You can't just have him show up, basically with a Band-Aid on his head in the next episode and just expect nobody to not, just people to not care.
Yeah, it's basically like, Shadow, you died! I got damn better.
Damn it.
Okay. Damn it. Yeah, it's like, no, Shadow, that doesn't work. That's the point. Shadow is supposed to be played like a martyr card, and that's what's cool about him initially. And then the anime just seems to, or not even really the anime, because the anime is not at fault for this. The games just want to blow him out of proportion. Basically, they're like, oh, Shadow was popular, people liked him. Well, cheer up, emo kids. Emo Hedgehog's back again.
Yay! I want to cut myself.
Well, now you can use Cut Out of Battle. Good job. Thanks, Gardenia. You're so wonderful. Anyway, so basically, Sonic X, as far as a plot, it's just basically, like I said, random goofy Eggman plots, and Sonic, with the help of Chris, his best buddy, go around foiling him, and then eventually it starts to get a little more serious with the game adaptations, and I know that most people don't agree with me on this. I think that the Sonic Adventure adaptation is really well played in the anime for one sole reason. Chris is sparingly in it. Like, you see Chris very briefly in a couple of the episodes, but he's not hot glued to Sonic's hip, and it's not basically the adventures of Chris in Sonic Adventure.
Yeah, I'll grant you that.
Sonic Adventure 2's arc is done even better.
Yeah, my take is that, like, I really like the Sonic Adventure 2 arc. I think the Sonic Adventure 1 arc is fine, but I think they really just kind of flew through that one entirely too fast. I don't think it was given the amount of screen time that it deserved.
No, you could tell they really wanted to get to Sonic Adventure 2. And so they did the Sonic Adventure 2 arc, and then there was also a Sonic Battle adaptation, which lasts the majority of Season 2, and it's basically just random episodes of all of the one-off characters, including the president of everything ever, fighting each other in, like, boxing matches, and it's kind of goofy. There's really no point to it. They just wanted to throw Emerald in there.
I really couldn't stand that arc.
It was really sad. Like, I liked Emerald as a character, so seeing Emerald basically self-destruct and blow up at the end of it's, like, really sad. Like, it's Emerald! Great, he's finally in the show. I died. Oh, okay. I guess. It's depressing. And Sonic Battle is a depressing game to begin with, and they just didn't do a good job adapting it, because it doesn't feel like Sonic Battle at all. And then at the tail end of Season 2, they randomly throw the Chaotix in there from Sonic Heroes for a quick cameo. Like, oh, this game came out. Well, let's put some characters in it, and you get to watch the Chaotix Detective Agency goof around for a little bit. And then that's really about it. All the characters pack back up. They head back to Sonic World, and Chris cries and acts clingy and pouty, and Sonic basically tells him, cheer up, emo kid. You'll see me again someday. And Chris is like, and Sonic's like, that's right, buddy, gotta go. He's like, oh my god, I'm so glad to be away from that kid.
Seriously.
So all the characters head off, jump in the portal ring, and they go back to their planet. And that's supposed to be the end of Sonic X. And, because Americans are idiots, we got a third season of Sonic X.
Why?
Exclusively. And the third season basically is like Sonic X Access, or you could tell it wanted to be, except it's nowhere near as good. The majority of the story takes place on Sonic's world, and this is just where it really starts getting screwy. At the beginning of the third season, you see Chris, and he's married Helen, who's the little handicapped girl in the wheelchair.
Wait, he married her?
Yeah, he married her, basically.
He married Gimp-chan?
Yes, he married her. I think they're married anyway. They might be, like, going steady or engaged or something, but they're, like, 25-ish or something. I think they married, okay? It's been a while since I've seen this. They're an item. Can I say that, at least?
That's really weird.
It is kind of weird, actually. I liked Helen, don't get me wrong. I think she's, a fine character.
That's one of those characters that I honestly just forgot about, because she came into the
so
same...
unimportant, yeah.
Exactly. She just felt like a filler episode character to me.
Yeah, Chris's friends actually have a lot of plot involvement as well, which just kind of irritates me, too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of human characters we glossed over that are prevalent and frequent throughout Sonic X. Chris's American business father person guy who's like the CEO of a major company. Chris's admittedly cool uncle Chuck, who's like the awesome old man that doesn't mind if you stand on his lawn.
And yes, I'm sure the reference is intentional.
I think so, yeah. Chris's mom, who's basically Marilyn Monroe reincarnated. Chris's teacher, Mr. Stewart, who's basically this goofy government spy, Inspector Gadget kind of character who runs around and spies on Chris, but he's well-intentioned. He's just kind of goofy.
He's just a really dippy, yeah.
Yeah, he's a dippy guy. There's a bunch of other human characters. Chris does admittedly have an awesome battle butler, Mr. Tanaka, who's like this. He's like a black belt in everything, and can probably kick holes in steel because he's just that cool.
Yeah.
He's the best character on the show, bar none.
Honestly, yeah, he's the best human character.
There's Chris's maid, Ella, I think her name is, and she's just like this,
I don't know, I just always refer to her as Rosalita because I can never remember her actual name.
Yeah, she's just this, this little, mamacita kind of maid character, and she's fine. It's kind of disturbing that she sounds like a guy in the English dub. I think maybe because she is. I'm not really sure. Anyway, so you have a lot of human characters in Sonic X that we pretty much skipped right over because I wanted to get more to the plot of the show.
Yeah.
And they don't really have any major bearing on it other than just being more characters that are being animated on the show. And so season 3 of Sonic X, you have Chris, who's basically grown up, and, his friends who are grown up. And Chris has just finished, developing this machine that will let him travel to Sonic's world somehow, I guess.
No!
And so he goes through it to go visit Sonic, to see how his old pal is after, all these many years. And when he steps through the machine, he turns back into his younger self.
Are you kidding me?
I kid you not, because apparently through the magic of time-space distortion, Chris hasn't aged at all when he's in that world, and it's really weird. They don't really do a good job explaining it, and it doesn't make any sense. So you get to watch another, 20, 30-something episodes with, Chris running around in the Sonic world. And basically the plot of Sonic X Season 3 is that, and the worst part about this whole thing, too, is that up until very recently, like literally, I think like a couple of months ago, maybe, Sonic X Season 3 was exclusive to Western audiences, so I can't even go off of like the original Japanese versions for any of this. This is all straight from the 4Kids dub. Because Japan apparently just never got Season 3, maybe because they were smart enough to know that it was bad.
Huh.
And it's apparently being streamed over there in its original, Japanese language, because it was animated in Japan, but we were the only ones that got it, well, us and, other international audiences, I suppose. So basically, the plot is these people, this mythical race of aliens come to Sonic's world with the intent of taking over, and I think they're called the Meta-Rex or something like that. I haven't seen all of Season 3, so I really don't understand its plot. And then there's like this race of good people called the Cedrians, and they're like these little nice alien girls that all look very suspiciously like Gardevoir, and I don't know if that was intentional or not. It's really convenient. But one of them is this cute little girl named Cosmo who takes a liking to Tails, and Tails like falls in love with her. And basically, Cosmo helps Sonic and the rest of the characters fight these evil robot aliens, who they then defeat, and Cosmo, spoilers, dies at the end of the series.
Oh no.
She like regresses into a little seed or something to be planted again, because she's like a plant girl or something.
I'm so sad.
Tails is like completely devastated by her dying, and I'm like,
suck
guys,
it up.
This is like when you go to a library and you see a book with a picture of a dog on the book, and it's got an award for being a good book. You know the dog is going to die. I think there's a trope for that. I'm pretty sure it's called Death by Newberry Metal or something along those lines. And honestly, that's dang it, that's how it goes in shows like this. So Cosmo dies, and Tails is like super sad and becomes emo kid.
Suck it up, Tails.
Tails is he's so poorly played in Sonic X, because basically, like Break said, Chris pretty much up and right out replaces him as Sonic's sidekick. And so it's like, yeah, we got Chris, who, they go through basically all of this effort to write Chris out of the 3rd season, and then they're like, oh, we just can't do Sonic without Chris. He's the most popular and wonderful character. Let's write him back in. Through the magic of science, grown-up Chris invents a machine so that he can travel to Sonic's world and become Chris Jr. It's wonderful! And you sit there and you go, I'm done with this show. Yeah, Chris does that. He somehow gets better, and he gets better right into Sonic's world. So, yeah. And that's
I'm
that's
so
why...
freaking glad that I dropped off when... See, I'm, for the most part, disappointed with myself that I lasted all the way through Season 2, but at the same time, I'm glad I never touched Season 3.
Yeah, I picked up Season 3 because I thought maybe it'll be better than the previous two, because I heard how similar it was to Access. And I was like, maybe this will be better than Season 2. Which was pretty decent, apart from, Chris. I mean, it's not great, but it's not horror bad.
Okay.
I like it for the adaptations, because it largely feels to me like what the anime should have been like, game adaptations. And it just doesn't, it just disappoints, so, yeah. Sonic X is largely not good. I mean, there are a couple of moments in it that are worth watching, but on on a whole, the entire series, it's better than Sonic Underground, but that's not saying much. I wouldn't even begin to put it anywhere near SATAM, and I dare say this, I wouldn't even put it near AOSTH in terms of quality.
In terms of actually being entertaining.
Yeah, AOSTH is bad, but it's awesome. Sonic X is just legitimately bad.
And like I said, I think that if Chris had never been such a freaking central part of that show, I think it would have been a lot better than it ended up being.
I fully, wholeheartedly agree.
But it is what it is, and there's nothing we can do about it now.
So, ending on that depressing note, thanks for tuning in and listening to our nice little rant about Sonic the Animations.
So you can definitely... God, we are seriously such old men. I mean, we go on forever about, like, oh, AOSTH, it's terrible, it's great. SATAM, oh, so great, the world, and Underground, pff, lame. OVA, pff, lame. X, pff, terrible.
Sonic Short, what the heck? What was that?
Wait, actually, that one was number 5 on the list, I think.
And it did suck! Thanks for listening, guys!
Wow. That was largely unintentional, but awesome.
Wow. Thanks for listening to our rant on Sonic the Animations. We hope you enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to record.
Yeah, this one actually I think we're going to be able to salvage and actually turn into an episode.
I know, right?
So if you don't like it, I'm going to be pissed.
Yeah, Audacity, you'd better not crash.
Seriously. So yeah, this pretty much rounds out the original 3 acts. We'll probably end up doing like a 4th, maybe even a 5th episode, depending, just leaving it open to the fates. I mean, we could always do like a special stage and essentially a boss run.
Yeah, and have like special guests on there, like people who actually know what Sonic is all about, right?
That is an absolutely fascinating option, and I reserve the right to discuss that with you further after we finish recording.
So, yeah. Sonic the Short, Man of the Year, was number 5 on our list.
And that's exactly what it was. Seriously, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Look forward to our next set of content whenever we get around to showing it to you.
This is Flashman EXE, signing out.
This is Breakman EXE, signing out. Good night.